I solemnly swear that I am up to no good.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 67 of Tales from Godric's Hollow. The saddest Harry Potter podcast on the internet. Not like quality-wise, emotion-wise. I'm one of your hosts. I am the muggle of the show. The sad muggle this week. I am Josh Brown. I am joined by the man who's going to try to get me through this tonight, Professor Matt Sonnenberg. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Josh.
This episode's gonna suck.
That's what you make it sound like.
Again, not quality-wise, emotion-wise.
Okay.
This is, yeah. This is a doozy.
There's not really a way to avoid it.
I've thought about this, Matt.
Yeah?
I've thought long and hard about this. There's totally a way to avoid it.
What's that?
You remember when Dumbridge was carried off by the centaurs and we were kind of just like fist pumping and silently celebrating to ourselves as we read?
Sure.
Should just stop there.
Just stop the reading or stop the book?
Yeah, just stop the book. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's just jump to the summertime.
Your favorite time now, right?
Yeah. I mean, less bad things happen in the summer, but this last year proved
Unless
that
there's
that's not even true.
Dementors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crapshoot these days. Christmas isn't special. I mean, there's no safe time of the year anymore.
Pretty much.
So yeah, that would have been one way to avoid this, Matt. Is just stop.
Yeah, I just don't think that would have been good.
Probably stop the movie like 3/4 of the way in. Just stop the podcast altogether. Just done. We're wrapped up. Go out on a high note, Matt.
Were you one of those kids who, like, the parents shielded them from things and like didn't show them how? I can't think of. Oh, like Old Yeller didn't show them the end of that.
Oh
or...
no. I'm scarred for life with all that stuff, man.
Okay.
That's why these emotional cuts just, go a little bit deeper, I think. The scars are still there. It's easier to cut into flesh when you're already scarred up. I've been told by many people that it was going to get worse.
Sure.
I think even our friend Alex said it's downhill from here, buddy.
You asked, he answered.
Yeah. And with Alex, it's a crapshoot on whether or not he's pulling my chain or being real.
Sure. Yeah, he has gone both ways with that before.
Yeah, so I didn't necessarily heed his warning. And when people said it was going to get worse, I guess I was more optimistic on what the quote-unquote worse was going to be.
Sure.
This sucked. This sucked a lot. And I'm not going to say I'm mad at you for putting 3 chapters in this week.
Okay.
Because I thought about this long and hard. We're just less than 24 hours removed since the reading occurred. So I've had a lot of time to process this and work through it in my head. If you had just done the normal 2-chapter structure.
Yes.
And we ended up where we would have ended up at chapter 34. I would have been mad at you for such a cliffhanger.
Okay.
But I don't think starting off reading it for a week with what would be in chapter 35 would do me any good whatsoever.
Yeah.
Because whatever chapter was going to happen after that one would have been completely lost on me.
And thank you for putting that out there without any prompting, because that's basically what I explained to our patrons who got your Muggle notes this week. And I had already gotten some grief for ending the reading where I did this week.
Yeah.
But I did my best to explain myself and what I know about you and how you would react to it, and that's why I did it that way.
Yeah.
And you I think 100% just confirmed that my thought process was correct.
Yeah, after that chapter ended, I sat there on the couch for what felt like hours, but was probably like 10 to 15 minutes.
Sure.
Without saying more than maybe a couple words. It took me that long to finish the notes for the week. Like, the last few notes that I wrote on there were several minutes after it was done because I couldn't type. And then the tweet that I sent out after that was after that as well. So,
yeah.
And after I texted you.
Yes, your very meaningful text.
But you knew exactly what I needed to say in that.
Sure.
It wasn't a very elaborate text, but you knew exactly what it meant.
For the record, it was, I believe, 6 periods.
Yeah. Just a lot of silence. I needed you to know that I had no words. Yep. And it's hard to convey to somebody that you have no words for them. So that was my best.
I mean, the phrase "I have no words," could work.
Could, but that would have been tough for me to write out.
Sure.
So yeah, I guess what I'm saying is if there was more reading after that chapter, I would not have been able to process it.
Yeah.
So I think you made the right decision. I didn't know that was actually something that like you were talking about with people. But yeah, like there's no way I could have done another chapter after that.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what's in the next chapter. Maybe it's going to be the best chapter of my life.
I know.
Maybe it's all just going to turn around and we're going to be just golden, but I don't feel like that's true.
Yeah. Regardless, I think it's going to be good for you to process this week. Like, just to sit back and process what's going on. And as I think you've already seen from the tweets you've put out on Twitter, our community is going to be there for you. And you'll get some of that in the emails tonight, but
yeah,
you're going to have plenty of people to talk to if you ever want to talk about anything.
I just, before we like really get into it, I do want to point out that like, I know everybody else has been through this, you know, like this is not the first time for anybody else that's listening to this podcast, except for me. But I do need to point out that everybody else had the ability to continue reading and finish the book, hopefully finish on a high note or something, get some sort of like good feeling back in their body afterwards, or continue finishing the movie, you know, or however that plays out in the film. Everybody else was at least able to like move on. Like, I'm not saying it hurt them less, it was less devastating or anything like that. It's just I have to sit with this for an entire week.
I know.
And that's the hardest part.
And normally I would give you that a little bit more, but I'm going to take a little bit of that away because I know a lot of people, myself included, kind of were in shock.
Yeah.
After this chapter.
Yeah.
And I know a few people who didn't keep reading right away. They did stop, whether it be for a few minutes, few hours, few days.
Sure.
And it's a big moment. None of us are at all surprised by your reaction.
Yeah.
Basically, we have all gone through this at some point, and as you'll see, some people still go through this. So I don't know. I don't want to say I'm excited to get through this episode, but
I'm excited to be done with this episode.
I
can't wait to be done tonight. I've been an emotional wreck all day. Last night was tough. Today was equally as tough. Like, the more I was able to sit and process and think and try to forget and try to formulate what I was going to say tonight and how I was going to accurately say it, and it's been tough. I dreaded doing this episode tonight. If I waited, I can't say it would have been any better. So I am very excited to be done tonight and just crawl back underneath the blanket and try to heal a little bit. So,
sure. Basically, what I guess what I was trying to get across is I think I want to say I'm proud of our community.
Oh yeah.
And the way that they are handling this.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think you'll see that as we go through.
I understand that excitement. 'Cause like I could honestly say, like, I felt like there was no tip off or inkling at all that this was going to happen, you know, other than my own dumb words that I say every week that sometimes, like, you know, turn out to be right or wrong or whatever, you know, like in emails and talking to you and, you know, talking to other people, like, nothing felt like something big was happening this week that I was bracing myself for. Especially after the first chapter that we read. Like, I was riding an emotional high after that chapter, Matt.
I know. They're good chapters, full of action, full of getting rid of the evil people, and yeah.
And it just came out of nowhere. And, like, the writing was on the wall. Like, I know if I was able to step back and, like, look at it objectively, I could have said, this is probably where things are going to spiral out of control. But, like, I got lost in the moment. I got caught up in everything. I was excited to have the worst person in the world gone from my life for the foreseeable future. There was a lot of things to celebrate and a lot of things to be excited about and a lot of things to be curious about and interested in. And I wasn't expecting the crushing heartbreak that finished it up. So, it was tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
Still is. Talking about it's not going to be easy, but we'll do our best, Matt.
We will.
But I definitely want to say thank you to everybody to allow me to experience this raw and unknowingly. You know, like, if I'd been prepared for it, like, it would have not been as emotionally impactful as it was. So, you guys did great. I know many of you probably wanted to, like, slip me a DM and say, don't read it, just move on, like, this is gonna suck. Like, many of you probably wanted to warn me. And I appreciate the amount of effort it took to not. Because you're probably going to get a good show out of it. So, everybody wins. Except me. I lose all the way around. It all sucks, Matt.
I'm sorry.
Let's give away something.
Let's do it.
It's going to be the only good thing tonight, so might as well.
That's why we do it twice.
I guess so, yeah. Last week we asked people to write in, talesfromgodricexile@gmail.com, with a bad dream, like they're a vivid bad dream that they remember, with a chance of winning this really cool little handmade music box that plays the, was it Hedwig's theme, right?
Correct.
Yes. We got some entries, I suppose.
We do.
Did you read through everybody's bad dreams? Like, was that kind of creepy?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Some people have really bad, weird dreams.
Sure.
Yeah. After a while, unfortunately, I started skimming them because people either have very good memories or very good imaginations, or
both.
They got quite lengthy in some of them.
Sure.
So
yeah, I had, up until this very moment, I hadn't considered the fact that you had to read through all of that.
There, your little joke on me.
Unintentionally.
Read these nightmares. Have some of your own.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to make me suffer all week. You might as well suffer along with me. So we had some entries. Have to pick a winner.
Yep. You got 17 this week. 17
to choose from. I got... Only number I can think of is 6.
6?
6. In honor of the 6 brave kids that went to attempt to save Sirius Black.
All right.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, there's 6, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, there are 6. Don't worry.
A lot happened, Matt. I'm sorry.
This will go to our friend Brent.
Hey, Brent. Congratulations. It's been a long time since he won anything.
Has he ever won before?
I don't know. Maybe not.
He writes in a lot, but I don't know if he's ever won before.
Maybe back in the day, early on. Anyway, congratulations.
Yeah.
What's Brent's nightmare that he remembers?
He says, in honor of this week's chapter, the worst dream I've ever had was a recurring dream as a kid where I got trapped in a dungeon like an arena to try to get out, but the arena was filled waist deep with blood.
Ooh.
There was a teeny tiny ledge around the edge, and I kept trying to get up on it, but there were several druid-like figures on the ledge, and I could never get up on it.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah.
How did the dream end, I wonder?
You know,
I don't need a follow-up. I don't need a follow-up, Brent. Don't do it.
You know, a lot of these, I mean, so many of these dreams don't end. It's like, and then I woke up.
Right, yeah.
Like many of people, wake up in the middle of these because, I mean, who wants to actually finish Nightmare?
Sure. Well, some of them might have a happy ending, I guess.
I'm pretty sure most don't.
That's fair. Congratulations, Brent. Thanks for writing in. Thank you to everybody that participated in sending Matt your nightmare fuel. I promised that I would share my worst dream that I could ever remember. It was as a kid. It was one of those reoccurring dreams. It's a little fuzzy now in my older age, Matt. You get older and you start to forget things. It just happens.
Sure.
But there is definitely me and other folks. I can't actually pinpoint who any of them were, but like we were in the form of like G.I. Joe action figures, and we're running through like a trench, like a riverbed type of thing, but it like was dug out. And I specifically remember going under like bridges or overpasses or something as you're running through it. We were running from aliens. Aliens were chasing us in UFO type crafts. And
are these like Toy Story type aliens or like
no I don't
E.T. or
I can't recall actually seeing the aliens themselves.
Okay, they're aliens in their ship. Got it.
Yeah. But there's definitely that feeling of these are not creatures from this world that are trying to.
Yeah.
But it was just one of those like consistently would have nightmares that there wasn't ever an ending to it. It was just like me running and panicking, and like I couldn't even begin to tell you what the meaning of it was or where it came. Like, I didn't even play with G.I. Joes as a kid. Like, I don't even know how that would even come into my mind. So who knows? It was. I just remember waking up many a nights from that exact dream and just being horrified.
All right.
Yeah. What about you? Did you have any really bad dreams?
I know I occasionally have some, but I usually don't remember them. And
Sure.
I tried all week to come up with one that I could remember, and I got nothing. I didn't have any bad dreams this week, so I couldn't give you any of those.
Sure. Oh, that's fair. I mean, bad dream is probably us not doing the show because I couldn't handle it emotionally.
However, before I forget again,
Yeah.
I did want to mention, not totally off topic again, but I need to send a thank you out to a mystery person. I got another package at my P.O. box, which unfortunately, if people don't tell me that I should be expecting something there, I don't check it all that often.
Sure.
So apparently this package was sitting there for like 10 days before I got it.
To be fair, it is in a different town. Like, it's not even in the city that you live in.
True.
So
I mean, yeah.
Just for the listeners out there, it's not like it's down the block and you just don't check it. Like,
Yes.
I have to
drive.
have a purpose to do so.
Yes. And so I'm sorry if this person was waiting for me to say something about this and it just didn't happen. I just hadn't gotten the package yet. That's all it is to it. In any case, I know you requested that we don't bring it up anymore, but someone did send me a cheese head.
That's awesome.
So I do have my very own cheese head now.
Yeah.
I can take a picture this week and put it up on the website. That kind of made me wonder, like, I went back and tried to look at the timeline, and I don't think it actually works. If it was the person who asked me to put a picture of me and my cheese head on the website that week, but I think they asked that the week before I actually got the package.
Yeah.
So
because I think that was when we had the revelation that you didn't actually open
exactly.
it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Although it could still be that person.
That's true.
But
if
there
they
was
knew
no
you're
name.
a Packers fan, I mean, one could assume safely
Yeah.
that you already had a cheesehead.
It looked like it was sent directly from Amazon, so there was no name attached to it.
Of course.
So I can't.
Sneaky folks out there.
Yep.
Yeah.
But in any case, thank you very much. I will appreciate it. I will wear it. Actually, I did wear it during the game. So.
Beautiful. The community demands pictures, Matt.
All right. I'll get some.
Stay tuned for the end of the episode. We'll do another giveaway. We got something else cool to give away this week. If we make it. I mean, we might not even make it to the end of the show. Let's be real.
We'll squeeze it in somewhere. Make another addendum if we have to.
Yeah, retroactively added to the end of the podcast. We'll figure it out. We'll do the Muggle poll in between chapters. We'll do some emails. I'm sure we have one or two of those. So I guess that means we probably have to start talking about these chapters.
We should.
Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Chapters 33 through 35 this week, in case I didn't say that at the top of the show. For any new listeners, this is a really weird episode to start on, but buckle up.
Yes, it will not be your average episode, I have a feeling. In any case, Chapter 33.
Mm-hmm.
Fight and Flight.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. No new characters. We do actually have one later,
Okay.
oddly enough.
Isn't that long string of names?
I didn't go back and try to line that up. I saw that in your notes. It's like, none of these are probably new people. I'm like, we'll see.
Death
So I
Eater, right?
had read at that point. So
Is it a Death Eater?
yes,
Okay, yeah. At one point, there's like a long string of like everybody.
Yeah,
there.
when they were like barking out orders and
Yeah.
stuff, and it's like, yeah.
I was like, I'm sure I know all of them, maybe, but if not, I don't even care at this point.
Yeah, I think there's only one that we hadn't heard of before.
Okay. It's chapter 33, Fight and Flight, huh?
Fight and Flight.
Yeah. This picks up right where we left off last chapter, conveniently. With Hermione escorting Professor, quote unquote, Professor, quote unquote, headmistress, quote unquote, worst lady in the world, Dumbridge, off to shore the weapon.
Yes.
That the DA's been working on. Harry Potter in tow because Dumbridge isn't going to leave him alone.
Gotta keep an eye on him.
Yep. The title of the chapter made me think that they were just, like, pretty early on, like, almost immediately, were heading towards the forest.
Okay.
And I was like, huh. Are they just going to run for it? Like, they're just going to make a mad dash and just take off? Like, I'm pretty sure Harry and Hermione can outrun Dumbridge, because she's probably wearing high heels or some sort of, like, very professional lady shoes, you know, and she's not accustomed to running through the forest.
And just the fact, I mean, as find out as they're just walking along, we're reminded once again, she's very short.
Yeah.
And so she has really short legs.
Uh-huh. A little clumsy and...
Yeah, so just walking at a quick pace is enough to, like, gain ground on her.
Yeah, she was tripping over roots and all kinds of stuff. So, like, I immediately just thought of, like, the hilarity that would ensue if Hermione and Harry just took off running. Just took off, you know.
Hide behind a tree and keep running.
Run to the Whomping Willow, maybe, and let it do its thing. Or, you know, the image crossed my mind of them just running off and how hilarious it would be for Dumbridge to try to chase him. Because you know she would. She wasn't going to turn back and just let him go. Overall, I think the plan worked out better than just running.
Definitely. Yeah.
But the Fight and Flight chapter title, the "and" was the word of importance there.
Exactly, because typically, you have fight or flight, but
yeah, first they fought, then they flew. I mean, the centaurs.
Yep,
leads them right to the centaurs. Well,
it's hard to say led them to the centaur. Like, let them into the forest and attracted the centaurs.
Was loud enough to made
enough ruckus.
Yeah. I mean, Hermione didn't know what the centaurs were, but she knew that if she continued with what she was doing, that they would eventually come head to head with them.
Yeah. Like, I thought it was an interesting note that Harry made, like, she's not heading towards Grop.
Yeah.
Like, that was his first thought. And
right.
Like, that was my first thought, too. It's like, we just met this giant.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why not use him?
Right.
Sure, that seems to make sense, but no, that wasn't the case, and so it's like, yeah, this is the path towards Aragog, but Hermione wouldn't know that,
right?
Because she wasn't there.
Right.
Like she would have been petrified at the time, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So. She knows nothing about that. So that would have been interesting if they just went long enough that they ran into Aragog without her knowing it.
Yeah,
that would have been a twist. But
and like rationally thinking, like Hermione wasn't that big on Grop as it was. Like she didn't trust that he could be civilized or tamed in any way, shape, or form. Like,
well, I would think that could be part of the plan. Is that he is unpredictable, so lead Umbridge over there, and like essentially she was counting on with the centaurs that she would insult them somehow and anger them,
but Hermione knew, like with the centaurs, like she could at least speak to them and communicate with them and talk her way out of a situation if she needed to, whereas with Grop, like she isn't fully on board with this whole plan of taking care of him for Hagrid.
Sure,
like she hasn't seen him behave or act in any rational way whatsoever that would indicate that she would be safe and Dumbridge wouldn't. To Grop, she would, Hermione's thinking, I would imagine, would be there's just 3 people that he doesn't know or care about, or, wizards that he's afraid of. Even though she's already met Grop, she's not believing that meant anything.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah.
But with the centaurs, she's like, okay, we speak the same language, we can at least communicate, they may be kind of jerks, but I'm Hermione, I could get through this. I mean, the plan worked out pretty well.
Pretty well.
Dumbridge, boy, she dug herself a grave quickly.
Oh yeah. Knowing her disdain for half-breeds.
She didn't even ease into it.
No.
She just went full on Dumbridge on him.
Mm-hmm.
Bad idea.
Well, she's not one for tact.
No. And I wouldn't mess around with creatures that are bigger than you and obviously far more intelligent,
But you see, that's the thing. She doesn't regard them as more intelligent, and she thinks she is above them. Those are her big flaws.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm not saying
glorious.
the centaurs are right either with their pride, but it's, yeah.
It was glorious to see.
Yes, that's why it worked out so well.
Yeah. Hermione didn't even need to all Hermione really had to do was adamantly disagree with Dumbridge.
Yeah.
As long as she and Harry made it very apparent that they were not with Dumbridge, but they were opposed to her, everything was going to work out well. And for the most part, it did. Centaurs had enough of Dumbridge, and they carried her off into who knows where. I celebrated a little bit, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
I was smiling. I was in good spirits. Now, I'm smart enough to know they didn't kill her right there in front of Harry, so the death isn't going to count. I'm assuming she's not going to get killed by the centaurs. She's getting taken off somewhere. I think it's safe to assume, unfortunately, we'll probably see her again at some point. Not saying she's going to be back as Professor of the Dark Arts. I'm not saying she's going to be back as headmistress of Hogwarts. But if the one who cannot be named on the show can make a reappearance in some way, shape, or form, there's a good chance Dumbridge will be back.
Sure.
Will it make any sort of difference? I have no idea. But her getting carried off into the sunset was glorious, but I'm smart enough to know that it's going to be short-lived.
Fair enough.
I mean, we only have 2 more books. That's 2 more years. She might not even be back next book. It might be until book 7, for all I know.
It's true. We did have quite a break from Lockhart.
Mm-hmm.
He was book 2 to book 5.
One might say not long enough of a break, Matt.
You might say.
So, yeah, I'm not overly celebrating. I'm being realistic about this. I know there's a good possibility she will resurface. But for now, it feels pretty good to know that she is gone.
Yes, I would agree.
Go Centaurs. Hermione. She's a smart girl.
Most would say so.
Sometimes she speaks before she thinks.
I would also agree with that.
Everything was fine. Everything was good.
Yep. Everything was going according to plan.
Mm-hmm.
And then
she kind of hinted that she used the centaurs to do her dirty work.
Mm-hmm.
Centaurs don't like that.
No, they don't like to be used.
They're not show ponies, Matt.
No.
And they're not creatures.
No.
Don't go there either.
They're, yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to, like, honestly, if you're not a centaur, I think it's hard to be on the centaur's good side. Even if you are a centaur, like, if you can go wrong fast.
That's true. I think the only way to, like, really stay on the good side of a centaur is just to kind of accept them, like, as your king, you know, like, we know you are far superior in every single way, and thank you so much for allowing us to live on this earth with you.
Yeah, that's probably your best plan of attack there.
Keep your wands put away, and make sure that you know that they know that you know that they are better in every which way, and you know that you're not trying to use them in any way, shape, or form, or that you need them to do something for you.
There you go. You got it all figured out.
Yeah, I'm a centaur whisperer, Matt. Hermione was not. This didn't end well. Upset the centaurs naturally because they are easily triggered, and just things were getting a little hairy there for a second. Speaking of little hairy, enter Grop to find little Harry and Hermione and a herd of centaurs, and Grop's looking for Hagrid.
That's what it would seem like, as far as we can understand.
He's looking for his little brother.
His big brother.
Oh, his big brother. That's right. Yeah. I really appreciated this moment.
Yeah.
You know, like whatever Hagrid was doing definitely did work.
Yeah, something actually stuck. He did seem to learn something. He picked up on something.
Yeah.
He I mean, even though he can't necessarily speak English, all that, like, we know the giants in general don't really speak English because they always had to have, like, translators and stuff when they were out there talking to the bulk of the giants.
Right.
But just the fact that, yeah, he did pick up on some names, and not saying them perfectly clearly, but we can understand it.
And some basic words to formulate a almost complete sentence.
Pretty much.
I'm proud of the little guy. Hagrid did good work with him.
Little guy, yes.
Fortunately, the centaurs were not too pleased. They're not a big fan of giants, apparently.
However, I did find it interesting that they actually seem to be afraid of Grop.
Well, he is massive.
Yes. But up to this point, like, there's been nothing they've been afraid of. They thought they were superior to everything, and they could just handle it. But, like, as soon as Grop got on the scene, like, they kind of got really nervous, got fidgety.
Well, I think part of their lack of fear comes with their ability to intimidate by intellectual standards. You know, like, if you could talk down to somebody and, like, raise yourself up in the process, it's easy to not be afraid of those people, right? But
sure.
they can't explain to Grop that they are superior beings than him because he's not going to understand at all. You know, and that's where the fear comes in, is they can't express their feelings of superiority to this giant because he just doesn't care what they have to say in any way, shape, or form. So, like, their number one defense mechanism is thrown out the window. And they had to resort to just straight up attacking him with bows and arrows because, like, well, what else are we going to do? We can't talk to the big guy. Let's just shoot him in the face with a bunch of arrows and see what happens. And that's a scary thing when you can't, like, communicate to something that is far physically imposing like that, you know? That's how I saw it.
Yeah, sure. That makes sense.
They feared the fact that their intelligence didn't mean anything.
Yeah, it was of no use to them now.
Yeah. They went into this fight armed with a weapon that they couldn't use at all.
Yeah.
So they got into it. They were shooting him in the face. He's bleeding everywhere. He's taking giant swipes at him. I didn't really say if he actually made contact with any of them, but it sounded like the battle was raging on, and then they kind of took off into the forest.
Yeah, I think there was one reference to him like at least knocking one of them over or something like that. But,
yeah, there's a lot going on.
Yeah,
but it's not like he was grabbing them and eating them for lunch or anything.
No, the biggest thing was that he got like 50 arrows in the face.
Yeah, and bled all over the poor kids.
Yeah,
which turned out to be for their best interest, but
turned out to help him in the end. Yeah,
conveniently worked out well for him. But yeah, it was cool to have Grop there. Grop's looking for Hagrid. Like, that story is going to continue to develop, and I'm excited for more of that because I definitely am needing that sort of break from like the real world awfulness that's going on with like the wizards of this book.
Yeah,
because man, they're depressing, Matt. just let me think about giant centaur battles all day, and I'll be good.
All right, giant wars, got it.
Mm-hmm. Enter the four other kids: Ron, Jenny, Neville, Luna. They were questioning what was or who Grop was, and I think that's when Ron dropped the Hagrid's little brother reference.
He did, yes.
It made me chuckle. I'm like, God, that was pretty slick.
It was a nice touch, too, because I'm pretty sure he's only heard about him. He hasn't actually met him.
Right.
And so, like, I don't know if he would have used that term, or maybe he was saying it kind of sarcastically.
Right.
But
I mean, if he had said, oh, it's Hagrid's half-brother that also happens to be a giant that he's been taking care of, like, it's just going to bring up more questions at that point.
Sure.
Hagrid's little brother, nobody thinks anything twice about, oh, I didn't know Hagrid had a brother. And then we move on.
Yeah.
But it was also hilarious because it's thick.
It's the biggest one there.
Yeah. Thestrals come back.
They do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally had forgotten that they were attracted to blood.
We've really only met them like once or twice now.
Yeah.
In pulling the carriages and a lesson with Hagrid.
Mm-hmm. Which is when we learned that they were attracted. Like, that's how Hagrid,
yeah.
Takes care of them out in the forest. But
and I mean, I think it was Luna that kind of mentioned that. It's like, yeah, that's how Hagrid got them. It's like he had the raw meat.
Yep. So because Harry and Hermione were covered in Grop's blood, the Thestrals came a running. And suddenly they're not as scary anymore. You know?
Were they?
I don't know. Like, Harry was like petting it and was totally cool with it. I mean, it still seems like a very creepy animal.
I mean, sure, it's like all black, but I mean, other than that, it's people like black horses.
Yeah, but they're like skeletal figures and like leathery, and they have like leathery bat wings, and I mean, there's nothing about those that like is My Little Pony-esque, you know? That's a whole dark universe of My Little Ponies going on there.
Sure.
But like, they were kind of adorable, you know? Like, one was like kind of like nipping at Harry's sleeve, like tugging on it, like, you know.
Yeah, I believe they started licking his robes.
Yeah.
To get at the blood, and which made me think like they never mentioned that they were licking Hermione, which she had blood all over her too.
Yeah.
So like it kind of makes me wonder, like, were they only attracted to Harry because he could see them?
Probably because Harry was acknowledging them, and Hermione was like.
But I mean, they just wanted the blood.
Yeah.
And so like. It's one thing that Harry could see them doing this, but if one of them walked over to Hermione then and started licking her, I would think that would be the weirdest thing to be being licked by an invisible something.
No, the weirdest thing would be flying on an invisible something miles above the Earth's surface, but we'll get to that next chapter.
You just pretend you're flying.
Whew, boy. No, I got some
I'm
things
Superman.
to say about that. Anyway, I'm glad to see the Thestrals return. Obviously, like that's the best way for them to travel to London to go save Sirius.
Yes. Thank you, Dumbledore, for teaching us about this.
Mm-hmm. Dumbledore.
Or, well, Hagrid. Hagrid mentioned that Dumbledore used them. There we go.
Yeah. So there we go. Good, solid chapter 33. We had the unfortunate yet very, very exciting loss of Dumbridge. We had centaurs, we had giants, we had Thestrals. Like, this was a good chapter.
Yeah.
And it got me engaged, and I was excited for, like, what was to come. Super excited, Matt.
Awesome.
If only I knew. If only I knew. I think this would be a good time to check in on the Muggle poll that you put up, though, while we're talking about good things.
We can do that.
Muggle poll we put up on our Twitter accounts. That's over on Twitter at TalesFromGH. Matt is kind enough to put it up every afternoon about 4 p.m. Pacific time on the days that we record. Lets you guys weigh in on a topic of Matt's choice for the week. Kind of get a feeling of where you guys land on a particular issue and get some feedback from the community. So, Matt, what did you ask about this week?
This week was all about Umbridge, basically.
Which I appreciate. This could have gone so many worse ways. So I appreciate throwing me a bone here on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to know, if you were in Hermione's position, basically, what was your first thought? Where would you take Umbridge? Where would you lead her? So I gave you options. We kind of talked about it I think we talked about it last week a little bit. Mm-hmm. Possibly the rumor requirement.
Yeah, because everybody wanted to know where I thought they were going to go.
There you go. Yeah. Take her to Aragog, take her to Grop, or would you as well be looking for the Centaurs?
Would you have put that rumor requirement option in there if I hadn't mentioned it last week?
That's hard for me to say.
Sure.
Yeah.
What would you have done if you didn't know the information prior to doing the action that I'm questioning you about, Matt?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I get that. What do the people out there say, though?
Well, once again, these numbers could change. I might have to change the length of our poll, because I think either we're getting into it earlier in the show, or we're recording earlier or something, but there's still time left. These numbers can change. Mm-hmm. But people are going right now with 36% for Aragog.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Take her to the Spider King, huh?
Close. 34 for the Centaurs, 18 for Grop, and 12 for the room requirement. Like, I have thoughts about all four of those. Yeah. And, like, why I would do it different ways. But where are you at?
Definitely I'm still stuck on the room requirement.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, granted, she's still in the castle, you know? But at the same time, I kind of trust the castle, you know? Like,
yeah.
You know,
the castle seems to be on your side.
A little bit, yeah. Like, the castle knows what's up. Like, it's weird to, like, turn the castle into a character, but I think we've seen enough of...
in this world, I mean,
yeah.
it is. It has been.
So I think that some interesting things could happen in that room requirement, if need be. But the downside is she's still in the castle, you know. Whereas the other three options, she's away from the castle and she's probably gone forever. So I definitely wouldn't take her to Aragog, because why am I going near giant spiders? Come on now.
Exactly. Like,
guys are crazy.
I mean, Hermione, like I said, since it was Hermione's thing, like, she didn't know. She wouldn't really be able to take him there. But if I were Harry, like, with that knowledge, I wouldn't want to go back there.
Yeah.
So what happened last time? It's like, well, yeah, we don't attack Hagrid, but when other people come wandering in, we're not going to protect them. I mean,
Yeah.
sure, they'd get rid of Umbridge, but they'd get rid of you too.
Yeah, exactly.
So I wouldn't head that direction. The Centaurs, like I said, I just think they're too proud. I don't want to risk too much with them.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I actually was leaning towards Grob. Because, like I said, it is most recent thing in my memory. I think he would want to inspect Umbridge a little bit, probably pick her up, do something with her.
Right.
It's a new thing he hasn't seen before. He's interested. She'd probably try attacking him and just make him angry, and he'd try to smash things or something. He would cause enough of a distraction, I think, with Umbridge,
sure,
that we would have time to run away.
Yeah.
That'd be my plan.
I mean, overall, I think it worked out as best as it possibly could have. So.
Yeah.
I like the wild card aspect of the rumor requirement.
It's true. I mean, in theory, any of those things could appear in the rumor requirement, right?
It's very true. I would think so. I'm still not exactly sure how it works, but yeah. Thank you for everybody to vote on that and weigh in on your idea of how you would handle Dumbridge. I'm just glad that everybody just wants to take care of Dumbridge. You know, I don't think anybody saw that poll and was like, you know what, she's cool. Oh, I wouldn't take her anymore.
Yeah, that would be weird.
Yeah. That's the end of the podcast, folks. It's been a
Not
great
quite.
night. Thank you for listening.
And now we bring on our special guest. He's been sitting silent for the past hour.
Sorry, Alex.
No.
Chapter 34?
Chapter 34, The Department of Mysteries. Still no new characters.
Thankfully. I would have some questions about the Department of Mysteries if we ran into new characters here.
Would you, though?
No.
Be a mystery.
So, riding the Thestrals at night without being able to see them would be the most frightening thing ever.
Sure.
Also, why is this not a ride at one of the theme parks? The ride of the Thestrals.
How would you ride an invisible
ride? I mean, okay, I'm not saying you could make them invisible, but like, it could be a pretty intense thrill ride of such, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think that would have been possibly better theming for a roller coaster.
Like, you know those roller coasters that they have at like Magic Mountain or other theme parks, I suppose, that like you strap in like with shoulder harnesses and your like legs are just kind of like dangling there.
Sure.
I think the Riddler, I think that was a roller coaster at Six Flags that did that. But yeah, like they strap you in upper body, but you're not sitting down, you're like standing up position, so your legs are just free dangling as the roller coaster goes around and does its loops and everything like that. Like, something like that could definitely be like, look, I'm on a Thestral, but I'm not riding anything because I can't see anything type of thing.
Sure, yeah. So, something where you don't have like lower body support.
Yeah.
That'd make more sense, yeah.
I don't know. I was just reading that and that was what was popping in my head. It was just how intense that was, you know. Because that one ride at Universal Studios, like, it simulates you being on a broom, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you're flying around with them.
Yeah. But I was like, man, this could be like way more intense if we had Thestrals to the mix.
Hey, they're redoing part of the park, right?
Yeah. If
Who
you guys
knows?
are listening out there, you could have that one for free. So they go to the visitors' entrance of the Ministry of Magic.
Yes.
I very much appreciate the formalities involved in getting into the Ministry of Magic.
Absolutely.
Even when you're rushing, even when you're on a rescue mission,
as they labeled it. That's not what he said. He
No.
didn't tell them he was on a rescue mission.
No.
And that's what made me wonder too. Is I get the impression that this is probably a little more magical. It's a magical booth, and it's just kind of programmed, if you can program magic, to do this.
Right.
But I think that would be the best job to have at the ministry, is to be at that visitor entrance. It probably doesn't get used a whole lot, so it might get kind of boring, I understand. But to wait for people to come and listen to what they have to say, and then figure out what you're going to put on their badge.
Mm-hmm.
Like that would, I think that could be a fun job.
Yeah, absolutely. Then again, we don't know how many visitors they get. Like, that could be extremely boring too.
Exactly.
Because all the employees, I assume, aren't going through the visitors entrance.
No, not at all. Because Mr. Weasley worked there, and he's like, no, yeah, I've never used the visitor entrance before. But I have a visitor, so we're going to use it.
Yeah. So maybe it's incredibly boring, you know?
Yeah.
Don't know. I don't know how that works. Yeah, this chapter was just setting up to get to the awfulness. Department of Mysteries is quite intriguing.
It has a lot of mysteries. Yes.
We had some brains swimming around in a vat of liquid.
Yep. Not entirely sure what they're doing.
No. Which Luna immediately labeled as aquavarius maggots.
Yes.
Don't know what those are, but you know I want to know.
Of course you do.
I'm not saying the maggots would not be creepy. I just think maybe they're a little easier to handle than just brains swimming around, you know?
Put them up there with Raxperts and Nargles.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So then we got to another room with this creepy veil in an archway.
Yep.
Don't know what that's about. It's super strange. As Val was reading it, funny little side note, because they said the word veil like many times in that sequence.
Yeah.
But at one point she read it as evil, and then she looked at me, she was like, Freudian slip? I'm like, I don't know, is it? Yeah. But I was like, you know what, I get it, you know, it's a very similar word, so
same length, all the letters are there.
Yeah. That was funny though. I mean, it was funny up until it wasn't funny. It was incredibly sad
until the veil came back. Yeah.
But to be fair, like, she's never read the books, so like, you know, whatever. I was starting to think of the Department of Mysteries as being like a fun house at like a carnival.
Sure.
But then I started realizing it's far more like a haunted house than a fun house.
Okay.
Like with like the creepy sound effects and
yeah, definitely. It's all dark and eerie, and yeah, there's just kind of vague sounds coming from everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, just things placed specifically to kind of freak you out a little bit.
Yeah.
The maze aspect is what I was thinking with like the fun house, you know, like the House of Mirrors or something.
So, okay, going back into that first circular room, where all these rooms would kind of branch off of, like, I want to know kind of, like, I get the impression that circular room was put there purposely, right?
Yeah.
It's not like one of the artifacts that they're keeping in the Department of Ministries. Department of Ministries. Wow.
See, it happens to the best of us, Matt.
Department of Mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always almost pictured it as like kind of a security system.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that made me think then, how do the legitimate employees know where they're going? how did they know which door is which? How did they know? Like, because the doors didn't really seem to be marked too much. Like, I think that there were some slight differences, but it's just, if everything's constantly spinning every time you close a door, I think that'd be annoying to work there.
Yeah, I have a feeling that like there is some way, some indication that they have.
Like unless they carry around like a special badge or something, and it's like, okay,
the room doesn't spin for them.
Maybe it's just an after hours thing. I don't know. It's like they go home for the night, turn on the security system, and there you go.
Sure. Yeah.
So during the day when they're all there working, it doesn't spin. Maybe who knows?
Hard to say. I did appreciate it though.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of weird things going on in this room. This department, this place. There was the one door that they couldn't open that melted a knife.
Yeah, it melted the knife that can open anything.
Yeah.
Well, I'll unlock any lock, I believe.
I want to know more about that, Matt. I want to know about that room.
Yeah?
Yeah. Hermione just instantly marked it off as like, nope, not going in there. That's a bad room.
Well, I mean, I don't know why they didn't think of this sooner, but like she made the point after that room. Like, no, Harry said he could just open the door that he went through.
Yeah.
It's like, why were they even bothering with locked doors?
Right.
If the one they're looking for should just be open.
Because there's the Department of Mysteries. And they're dumb kids, and, you know, they're curious about everything.
Trying to rush through it.
I mean, understandably so. Finally got to the right room. The glittery room with all the glass balls everywhere. Shells galore. They went to aisle 97?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. No Sirius.
Sirius.
You know, in my head I'm thinking this is either a really good thing or a really bad thing. You know? Either he's already gone or he was never there in the first place. Which would be super good. Unintentionally, they discover something else, though. One of the little glass balls had Harry's name inscribed on it.
Well, it wasn't. I don't believe it was on the ball itself. It was on the shelf.
Oh, for some reason,
like,
I understood it to be on the ball itself.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there is a faded label on the shelf by the ball.
Yeah. Okay. I guess that makes sense. In my head, it was like one of those little, you know, etching on glass type of thing.
Sure. I understand what you're picturing,
cooler.
But yeah. Because the ball itself, he said, you know, was all dusty.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So I had a weird inscription. I don't remember what it said, and I couldn't really stop Val. She was reading hard, and I didn't want to stop her because she was in the moment. So I didn't really catch what the inscription said.
So the inscription says SPT to APWBD Dark Lord and ? Harry Potter.
I don't know what any of that means. And I do not have the emotional capability of trying to figure it out.
All right.
So,
well, I know at least one person is asking you about an email, so.
Okay, hold on. Maybe I'll write this down so I could think about this as a way to distract myself. Okay, what was it again?
SPT 2 TO.
Oh. Okay.
APWBD. Dark Lord and ? Harry Potter.
Okay. I'll think about it. SPT 2. Okay. Mysterious.
It is. There's a reason it's in the Department of Mysteries.
I suppose so. Harry is compelled to touch it.
Yeah, and the line that's written here throws me every time. I don't know if you caught it, but Harry is just thinking to himself that he's feeling slightly reckless, and he wants to touch this ball, grab this ball.
Yeah.
Like, wait, now?
So you're basically feeling like yourself.
I mean, now you think you're feeling slightly reckless? What have you been doing the rest of the time?
No, this is just when he's finally at the age when he can explain it with words how he's feeling. You know, he understands the feelings that he has now.
We've kind of said he's always quite reckless. Sirius has told him that, and like it's just no, you've always been reckless. Grabbing this tiny little glass orb is probably the least reckless thing you've done all book.
Yeah, I mean, the entire time at Hogwarts.
Yeah,
you know, but like before he was just a dumb kid that didn't know any better. Now he at least knows better, and he's still making the conscious decision to do it anyway. You know, like, he's telling himself, this is a bad idea. Whereas before, he just went in without ever thinking those kind of thoughts. It was just like, I gotta do it. Has to happen. But now he's, like, trying to actively talk himself out of it, and acknowledges the fact that he is completely incapable of talking himself out of anything.
Sure.
Thankfully, nothing happened.
No. I just picked it up.
Slightly warm, I guess.
Yeah, oddly warm. Like he described it as it had been sitting in the sun for hours, which I don't know if it's actually described as cold, but I was kind of picture a kind of cold, dark room. Definitely no sunlight in here.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be warm.
Shouldn't be. But, you know, whatever. It's creepy things going on, so whatever.
Yep. Another mystery.
So nothing bad happens. He doesn't die upon touching it. Doesn't explode. Like, there's a whole gamut of things that could have happened when he picked this thing up.
Yeah.
None of it did.
No.
Except one thing, Matt.
The voice.
The voice. Don't know who the voice was, but it told him to give it to him.
Yep.
And I completely overanalyzed it. I was like, whose voice could it be? The fact that the voice called him Potter.
Sure.
First thought, who calls him Potter nonstop? The only thing he's ever called him ever in 5 years.
Snape.
So I got really mad. I was like, what is Snape doing down here? You know, like, we need to have a discussion of what's happening. And I thought maybe it's Voldy. I don't remember what Voldy called him.
Yeah, I think my mind has generally jumps to Voldemort in that instance.
Yeah. I mean, that was the obvious, I think. That's what it was written to made you think it was.
Yep.
But for me, just hearing somebody refer to him as Potter, that will forever be a Snape thing in my head.
Yeah, we've talked about that before.
Potter. So yeah, cliffhanger.
But we're not done.
Could have been.
No.
Should have been.
No, I don't think so.
I don't want to do this chapter, Matt. Don't make me do it.
Chapter 35, Beyond the Veil. And our one new character, Jugson.
Yep.
Yeah. Another Death Eater.
Yeah.
I think they needed another name when they got sent off in pairs.
Yeah.
It's like, we're short one. Who we got? Jugson, you're up next.
Sure. Go for it. This chapter.
Yes.
This chapter. This was more intense than some action movies I've seen.
I can see that. Yeah. Yeah.
It was just kind of non-stop.
Definitely. I mean, you always say you want more action.
Oh, I
just
got
kind
it.
of packed it into one chapter.
It was a little overwhelming at times. Like, I was getting lost in what was happening, and like I was trying to recenter myself and figure out who was where with what and how, and I think this might be like the rare exception where watching this unfold in the film will be easier to follow than the book.
Yeah, I could see that. Like you said, there's just so much going on that it's easier to follow visually than it is to try to read about it and piece it all together in your head.
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, I've read this a number of times, obviously, but this is one of those scenes, and I think probably always will be, that I picture in my head the same way I did the first time I read it, even though I've seen the movie many times. Mm-hmm. That scene is not replaced in my head.
Okay.
It's definitely different from the way I first pictured it to the movie, as a lot of things are, obviously. But I will say a lot of things, especially like the Hogwarts castle, when we're walking around Hogwarts, a lot of those scenes now, I visualize the movie.
Okay.
When I'm reading.
But not this one.
For whatever reason, the Department of Mysteries, I have a fairly vivid picture. If I knew a sketch artist somewhere, I could describe this to them, and we could design the whole Department of Mysteries according to my head.
Sure.
And it would not match the movie at all.
Well, when I get to watch this movie, I will tell you what I thought about this scene. And
okay.
I just know, like, processing it 24 hours later, like, it's still kind of chaotic as far as what all happened.
Sure.
But I think that was intentional also, you know?
Well, yeah. Once again, trying to get you into Harry's frame of mind, which is chaos right now.
Yeah. And the chaos of this chapter was so effective in hiding the climax of this chapter.
Sure.
Because this whole rescue mission has been about rescuing Sirius Black, who is supposedly in trouble and being held hostage by Voldy, we could assume, based on Harry's dream or vision or whatever it was. And for everything to happen that doesn't include Sirius actually being in trouble, and then just chaos breaking out all over the place, you really started to believe that Sirius wasn't in any sort of trouble whatsoever.
Yeah.
And that's what sucked a lot, was the initial panic, and then the reassurance that everything is okay, and then the crushing heartbreak that came with it. Of maybe there was more to it than he really understood, you know. Before we get to all that, because I don't want to get there quite yet. Bellatrix Lestrange?
Yes. We've heard about her.
Yeah. It's a name I've been in tune to for a while now.
Yeah.
She's out of Azkaban.
Yep.
She's rolling deep with the Death Eaters.
As you would expect.
And she's an awful woman.
Absolutely.
She is. I was starting to, like, have that sense of she might be worse than Dumbridge at this point. Because at least Dumbridge, as horrible as she is, consistently feels like she's doing it just to make the Ministry happy.
Sure.
You know? Or to do what she thinks is right. Whereas I am pretty certain that Bellatrix is just a gunslinger. She's serving, Voldy, but she's not doing anything to impress. Like, she's pretty rogue. Like,
Yeah.
Lucius is having a hard time controlling this woman.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't care.
When this is someone that we've basically seen Voldemort compliment. That's probably not good for the rest of the world.
Right.
If Voldy approves of what she's doing, but the fact that now we know she, like you said, she's kind of rogue and does things her own way on her own terms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that reasoning with this lady doesn't work.
No, not so much.
She just doesn't care. She's... Oh, boy. So there was, like, mention, like, she was threatening to start killing the kids, and I was like, look, this is book 5. We're not going to have any of the kids die in this book. Stop it. Like, you're not fooling me, JK.
I still stand by the only one you need to keep is Harry.
Sure. Look, I'm not saying...
There's 5 other kids there.
I can't say with certainty that all 6 of these kids will be alive by the end of the story. What I can say is that at this point in book 5, I was pretty confident that we weren't going to lose one of those 6 here in this chaos.
Okay.
Like, it was thrown in there as a red herring to make us, like, feel worry and concern. And trust me, ooh, it got close. But I just kind of chuckled, like, they're not going to kill off characters right now. Not the kids. But, of course, that's who, that was the only people I thought were possibly in danger. So,
yeah,
being naive, I guess. I was going along with Harry as to trying to decide whether or not to smash the glass ball.
Yep.
Because that's clearly what they wanted. They weren't going to attack him if he was holding it because of fear of breaking it. So maybe just break it. But then you run the risk of, well, once it's broken, they have no use for you.
Exactly.
You're not safe.
The only thing keeping him alive was the glass ball intact. If he destroys the orb, he's gone. If he gives him the orb, he's gone.
Yeah. So I was going back and forth with that one, It was tough. I think he did the right thing of trying to protect it.
Yep.
But it got out of hand quickly. So yeah, I appreciate the Death Eaters being freaked out when Voldy's name is said. Not in the same way that, like, wizards and witches
exactly
are freaked out by it.
They're not afraid of the name.
No. But they don't like hearing it said by non-Death Eaters.
Well, that's the thing. They don't even say it.
That's true. You have to be of a certain privilege to say that name.
Like, they refer to him as the Dark Lord.
Right.
Kind of like I mentioned back with, like, Snape. Like, he still refers to him as the Dark Lord.
Right. So yeah, it was interesting to get that reaction from them.
Yeah.
And Harry used it to his advantage because, again, he's the only one that doesn't care about saying his name.
Yeah, he's never had anything to fear. He's not afraid of him, really. So
yeah, I mean, even if he is slightly afraid of him, like, he knows saying his name isn't a game changer one way or the other. So it was a nice little add-on to the power that is Voldy and what his name represents, I guess. It was kind of revealed that Voldy was the one dropping hints inside of Harry's dreams to kind of lead him to this room so that he could retrieve this prophecy. It's the glass ball. Apparently, only the person that the prophecy is about is able to grab it.
Yep.
And since Voldy's name is on it, he could have, but, you know, as pointed out, can't exactly just stroll into the Ministry of Magic.
Well, it's not so much that. It's he could have. I mean, think about it. 12 Death Eaters made it in.
Yeah,
Voldemort,
I guess so.
Voldemort could have easily made it in, especially after hours like this.
Sure.
But he wanted to kind of keep his secret because the Ministry was still putting this story out there that he wasn't back. He didn't exist again.
Right.
And he wants to use that to its full advantage. So he's not going to risk, going into the Ministry at this point and letting anybody that works there say, hey, Voldemort's back.
Yeah. He could go in there, wands blazing, and, you know, take over the entire building if he wanted to, I'm sure.
Yeah,
and grab
he could easily get in there. That wasn't the point.
Right.
He, one, wants his henchmen to do his dirty work for him because that's what all good bad guys do.
Yep.
And two, like I said, just keep his secret.
Yeah. And I think he, like, secretly, because he is kind of evil, enjoyed torturing Harry a little bit via the dreams.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, like, I think he got some weird enjoyment out of that, so.
Bonus.
Yeah. So, okay. All's kind of making sense now. You know, that explains why they wanted to keep or teach Harry how to lock down his mind, because obviously they knew that they were, you know, Voldy was trying to get in there and show him things. Lead him right to here, where he is.
Yeah. Once again, I will contend that I'm not sure if they knew that, but they probably thought it was a possibility.
Yeah. Yes, I will give you that. They couldn't say for sure it was happening, but they knew that it was definitely possible. And that was scary enough.
Yep.
The chase scene was intense, to say the least. Like I don't really even know how to quantify it. A Death Eater's head got turned into a baby's head.
Yes.
In one of the weirdest turns in the story I've seen yet. Of all the things that come out of nowhere, that one's up there.
Well, like I said, we're still in the Department of Mysteries. We don't know exactly what's down here. And the reason a lot of these things are down here is because they're mysteries. They aren't fully explained. They're still trying to figure them out. They're like I almost see the Department of Mysteries like an R&D department.
Yeah.
Like they're just experimenting with things. Like they're not ready for public consumption. They're not ready to show them off. Strange things can happen. They may or may not be able to replicate them. Like they're not sure about all the side effects. Just anything could happen down here. And so I think it could easily be some of the strangest magic that you've seen to date.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it got weird quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a Death Eater running around with a little tiny baby head just wailing, like, so funny and so creepy at the same time. I don't know what to think about that.
Just have a good laugh.
Yeah, I really hope that's in the movie, but I'm pretty sure it's probably not going to be, but man, I would love to see that. So we'll see.
We'll see.
Hermione got hit. Neville got attacked. Kids are going down left and right.
Yep.
I didn't think for a second Hermione was actually going to be dead, but we had to have, like, the pulse check to make sure she was okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Hermione's not dying. Not like that. Not so unceremoniously, you know?
But Harry was right there.
Yeah, but there was no fanfare behind it, you know?
Yeah, there wasn't even a verbal spell to follow. Like,
No.
The guy was silenced at the time.
Yeah. Like, if Seamus was with him, like, he would have been dead right there. You know? Like, go for it. Whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like...
Yeah. He's not one of the trio, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. There would have been more to it. So I wasn't even worried about that. I was like, whatever, she's gonna be fine. She's good. There was a mention of time turners.
Yeah.
There
was, well, at least what Harry assumed because of the reaction that they had, that there was a cabinet full of time turners.
Right.
And it got knocked over and kind of sent itself back in time. Like, they activated and sent themselves back in time and rebuilt the cabinet. And it kept falling over because, well, no one was changing anything.
Right.
But you kind of got the idea after a while. Like, the first thing they saw in this room was that the hummingbird that came out of the egg and aged and then went back down. And like it was in this cycle of kind of birth death type of thing. And then you saw that cabinet fall over, and then it kind of started doing this back and forth thing. And it's like, is this just like, do things just repeat in this room, or what's going on? But then I think it's Hermione, before she gets knocked out, mentions that, especially with the baby head thing, like, it's time.
Yeah.
Like, they've trapped time.
Right.
And it's just kind of going around in a cycle.
Yeah,
and
it was weird. It was something...
Yeah.
It wasn't blatantly obvious what was going on.
It's very abstract, I think.
Because I think the first time they went through the room, like, there was mention of, like, funny-looking hourglasses or something, but...
Yeah.
Nothing like, oh, look at the time turners there, you know?
Yeah. It said something about hourglasses in the cabinet, and then later he figured out, oh, they're probably time turners. I mean, it makes sense. It's in the time room, and the description we've gotten of a time turner, I believe, does mention an hourglass in there.
Yeah.
Because that's what, like, she would rotate 3 times.
So, just the mention of time turners in this chapter makes me immediately scratch my chin and say, what if? I don't want to think about the possibility, but I like that the possibility of something is there, I guess. Time turners. They exist beyond Hermione using it to take multiple classes.
Well, I mean, this is where they got it from.
Yeah.
This is the ministry. This is where they keep them, under lock and key. Well, not lock and key, I guess. Under magical locking spells. They don't use keys, apparently.
Ron. He's in a mysteriously good mood.
Yeah.
Don't know what's up with him.
Not so much.
No. But it was fun. It added a sense of comfort in a weird way, you know? And again, I think that's why everything was just so devastating at the end, because there were so many good things throughout this chapter that you could smile about or laugh at. You know, the baby's head, Ron being punch drunk, Neville having a hard time talking, and like how he was written, like his speech was so perfect. So perfect.
Yep.
That like Val was having a hard time keeping a straight face reading him, even though he's like saying serious lines. It's hard to take him seriously when he sounds like that, you know?
Yep.
So there's so many good things to like laugh at and chuckle at and just smile at, that like once you got to the end, it's just like the biggest punch in the gut of life. So we go back to the room with the creepy veil. little foreshadowing, it seemed. Neville continues to oddly be one of the bravest kids in the group.
And yeah, honestly, well, one, I think you can once again start to see why he's in Gryffindor.
Yeah.
But two, I think he's a really odd case. You put him in basically extreme circumstances, and he shines. You put him in a classroom, he fails miserably.
Yeah.
It's like he can't do the simple things, but I guess maybe get some adrenaline flowing, and he's one of the best out there.
Yeah. But like it never, you never turn to him to be like, oh, Neville's going to save the day, or
No.
Neville's going to be the one to be, to show his heroic side.
No,
he just is the one that does it. Of course, it was, he was making a sacrifice for the sake of Harry and for the sake of everybody else. He knew that if he could sacrifice himself to allow Harry to escape or whatever was necessary, despite Bellatrix being awful. Like she recognized his name immediately and got incredibly excited that she was going to have the opportunity to torture and inflict pain on him in the way that she did his parents.
Yeah.
And
like the fact that was her reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
Is just so wrong.
And just cold-hearted, like she was definitely using it to get to Harry, that was,
Sure.
Sure. But like on the other hand, like the other half of her would have still done it regardless if she was trying to bargain with Harry Potter with the prophecy or not. Just because I think she would have enjoyed the sick pleasure of, taking down another Longbottom.
Yep.
And that's pretty gross.
Welcome to Bellatrix.
Oh, I don't like the Lestranges, Matt. At least that one. I don't know about the rest, but I don't want to know.
Well, like I said, that's why we are all so curious about the Lestrange name in Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah. What did the Lestrange do to Scamander? How does that play out? Oh, I don't even want to know, Matt. I'm not ready for Fantastic Beasts 2. I'm not. I don't. Nope. One Lestrange is bad enough as it is. So yeah, she started torturing Neville. Maliciously. It was repulsive. It was shocking. It made me squirm. It made me super uncomfortable. It made me immediately emotional because poor Neville. What? Why this kid? Dang it, Matt. Why Neville?
Poor Neville. That's all we can say.
I mean, there was a point when this started happening. I was like, oh crap. He's not going to make it. Like, this is him sacrificing himself for the greater good of everything. Like, this is what he was put in this story for, to sacrifice his life to ensure that Harry Potter survived and was able to move on with his, impending confrontation with Voldy. Like, I was like, we're going to have to like sit here and deal with Neville being killed. And I was not emotionally ready for that, you know, because I was just laughing at Neville a page ago.
Sure.
Oh, it was gut-wrenching. And like, just as I'm starting to like really quantify my feelings into something, like the best thing happened. Order of the Phoenix busts in, and they're all about busting some Death Eater heads around, you know?
Yep.
Oh, it was like that heroic superhero movie at the end of, you know, the film where they all just bust in and save the day.
Yeah. The one where you see like Captain America just drop out of the sky out of nowhere and land in that pose.
Yeah.
It's like, don't worry, we're here.
Like the second Avengers movie where they all like circle around, you know, and
yes,
they're like, okay, it's go time now. It was so awesome that they just showed up. It took them long enough, but it's on. Tonks, Kingsley, Lupin, Sirius, Moody.
There you go.
Was it just those 5?
Yep.
Okay. I thought we're good. I thought this is what we needed, you know?
Yeah. Help us here. They're going to save Harry Potter again.
Tonks was taking on Bellatrix. I was like, okay, I like this. Then it got a lot darker than I was ready for after like having like this turn in action where I was excited and I was thrilled again about what was happening. Like Neville just straight up stabbed a dude in the eye with Hermione's wand.
He did. Yeah. Like, you know, they were still wearing their Death Eater masks, most of them at least. They hadn't taken it off for one reason or another.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's what he, like, there's an opening there. It's like, well, what do you do? Just, all right, I have a wand in my hand. Stab it through the hole.
Oh, Neville, you vicious animal. He has some fight in him like nobody knows.
Yep.
I thoroughly enjoyed and squirmed equally at that. Like, then we found out that it was McNair who tried to kill Buckbeak, and I'm like, you know what? Sure, he deserved it. I'm okay with that. You know, if it was, you know, some random Death Eater, like, had his head turned into a baby or something, I'd be like, oh, whatever, collateral damage. But McNair, okay, I'll fist pump that one.
Fair enough.
Then there was this weird scene, and like I was getting caught up in everything, right? I'm trying to envision how all of this is playing out. This giant battle that's going on in this big auditorium type room. And I'm pretty sure there was a scene where Harry thought that he had dropped the glass ball because something was rolling on the ground. And I believe it was Mad Eye's Mad Eye?
Yes, the Mad Eye's magical eye was rolling on the ground.
Did it get knocked out? Did he get killed? Like, how did that come out of his head? Was it even explained?
He looked up and Mad Eye was laying on the ground, I believe, bleeding from the head. And then the guy that had attacked him started attacking Harry, so he didn't have much time to look at it.
Okay. So we don't really know.
Correct.
I needed confirmation, Matt. I needed you to say that everything's okay with Moody.
I cannot say that.
I need you to. Look, I barely know Moody.
The real Moody.
Yes, the real Moody.
The other Moody you spent with a whole year with. I mean,
I have way more of an emotional connection to him.
I mean, like we said, he did learn a lot about the real Moody. So a lot of those traits and characteristics, and even some of his stories, are probably true of the real Moody as well. But to think about it, that that was an imposter, and we've only actually interacted with the real Moody a handful of times. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. So I guess I'm emotionally conflicted on how to feel about him possibly being dead. I want to say that he's probably not, but like I am not shredded into pieces thinking that he might be dead, you know?
Okay.
So I don't know. I guess I needed clarification. Like that was indeed his eye rolling around. Like I did hear that right. Because again, I couldn't stop Val when she was reading this. Like she was a freight train and it was coming hot and heavy and
she just wanted to get through it.
Yeah. So I'm starting to get all nervous and sweaty at this point because I'm just like, okay, it's getting hot and heavy in here. The prophecy gets smashed. We have no idea what it said. That's the most horrible thing. Like, the completionist in me, Matt, is freaking out because I'm just like, that's something we'll never know. Like, how is that even okay at this point? You know?
So my biggest thing about this is, like, we find out about these prophecies in these orbs, right?
Yeah.
Don't really know how they get there in the first place. Don't know much about them. Don't, like, you grab them, nothing happens. The only thing we've seen them actually do so far is when you smash them, you get to hear the prophecy once.
Right. That's it.
Is that seriously what you're supposed to do with these?
I don't know.
It's like, okay, when you're ready, you once in a lifetime opportunity here. Make sure you're ready. Make sure you have your. I mean, they don't use electronics because they they malfunction with magic and like. What?
Your quick quote quill. Get that ready.
I suppose maybe, but like, it just.
Well, doesn't that make him more important feeling and more of like a sense of urgency with them? You know, like if you could just repeat them whenever you wanted.
I guess what is the point of keeping them down here?
I don't know, because if you want to hear whatever it is, you have to be completely ready for it.
And then you can never hear it again.
Yeah. Blown opportunities. So I'm freaking out. I'm like, what does that say? Is it important? Does Harry need to know? Obviously the Death Eaters need to know, or Voldy needs to know. Is it something Harry needs to know? If so...
Well, it was about him. That's why he could pick it up.
Right. But does he need to know it? Doesn't matter at this point. You never will. It's gone.
Yep.
Forever. See ya. Whatever. I thought that was going to be the heartbreak of the chapter, Matt.
Yeah.
So I'm freaking out. I'm stressing big time. I'm like, well, that whole thing is ruined. Like, we just spent an entire chapter trying to save that thing. Now it's gone. Forever. Blink of an eye. Poof. Gone. Where do we go from here? Well, Dumbledore busts in. That's
About
where we
time.
go. Where have you been, sir? Where have you been?
It's kind of been banished by the Ministry, so I mean, kind of understand, but you would think he could at least like come at the same time as the Order, the rest of the Order.
Yeah, you would think. Good to see him.
Yeah, definitely, especially with the Death Eaters' reaction.
Right,
like they know who he is.
They knew they were in trouble. Yeah, it was pretty much game over for the Death Eaters at that point. Dumbledore's just handling fools left and right. Dumbledore got style. Dumbledore's a pretty good wizard, allegedly.
So you hear.
So I hear. One last fight going on.
Yep.
Sirius and Bellatrix. I'm like, okay. Family rivalry.
Cousins.
I get it. Sirius getting a little cocky. Like, okay. That fits his character.
Exactly.
Uh-huh. Got a little too cocky.
Possibly.
Got hit.
Yeah.
At this point, he's not the first one to get hit.
Sure.
I'm thinking, okay, they get one last, lick in before they retreat, and we all move on. Hermione gets healed up, Sirius gets healed up, Neville gets healed up, Moody gets healed up, maybe. They find his eyeball and pop it back in, I guess. I don't, we're okay. We're okay. That's what I wanted to think, Matt. That's what I wanted to believe. I truly did. And I will say this, it was hard to think positively because as hard as she tried, Val's voice was cracking and she was starting to tremble as she was reading. And it's incredibly hard to sit there and watch somebody that you love and care about cry and start to break down over something. And I knew that was a really bad thing. She has obviously seen the movies. She hasn't read the books.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't be breaking down like this, having a hard time, reading, these next few paragraphs if everything was going to be okay.
Sure.
She made it through that entire chapter just fine. So that was, the only real indication that what was about to happen was actually going to happen. So I had maybe a minute to prepare myself, which wasn't enough, Matt. It was not enough. I didn't see it coming, and it sucks. It sucks. When Cedric died, it was shocking because that was the first time in this story that things got real in a way that affected the reader.
Yeah.
Quirrell dying at the end of the first book. Whatever. Nobody cared.
He was the bad guy.
Yeah, sure. Go for it, knowing that other people have died at the hands of bad people is one thing. Attacks and petrification and all that stuff. Sure. Whatever, But to, lose a character like Cedric, who you're just starting to get to know and, maybe it was because he was still a kid, still a student at Hogwarts. Whatever the reason was, it was still a shock because you didn't think something like that could and would happen up until that point.
Yeah.
In the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely where these books took a turn. I mean, it's also where we got the return of Voldemort, which is why they took that turn. But there's definitely a noted difference. And I guess like you were mentioning, these two deaths in particular,
mm-hmm.
Cedric and Sirius are different than anything else we've seen. It's basically the book version of what I would call an on-screen death, right?
Yeah.
It's how like Disney and Pixar and those type of movies get away with these type of scenarios because they put them off screen and just imply that they happened.
Yeah.
But there's a reason that they have to keep them off screen to keep their, kid-friendly ratings.
Right. Yeah.
And so these, like I said, that they're different. They're the on-screen ones.
Yeah.
They're the ones that hurt more.
But even more so because reading, you're spending many, many more hours than you would be watching a film. Even if it's like a series, a trilogy or whatever, there's still a certain level of intimacy that comes with getting to know the characters when you're reading about them and you're hinging on every word as opposed to just seeing them and like seeing them go through the motions, and like maybe it's an actor that you're familiar with and you've seen in another film. Like there is that disconnect, like when a character in a movie or a TV show or whatever gets killed, like sure, you're sad about the character and you could even get emotional about it, but like ultimately like there is that break in reality that it's like, well, it's a movie.
Yeah.
But when you're reading, like the power of reading and the power of books like completely overwhelms your brain and you get lost in these worlds. And that blatant disconnect between reality and fiction like isn't as, the gap isn't as big as it is with film and TV as it is with books. It's a very thin line, and you could go back and forth on it consistently, and depending on how everybody reads and how invested they get, and how what their ability is like to just kind of shut everything else out, you could get like totally 100% invested mentally and emotionally in each and every word of a book. So because of that, like when you lose a character, it's different. It hurts more. Especially because I don't know, like the story's being told from Harry's point of view.
Yeah.
And maybe like that is one of my issues that I haven't really realized with the films, is the films aren't in Harry's point of view.
Very true.
It's just you're following him around, you're doing what he's doing, but these books are told from Harry's point of view. So you feel a lot more connected to him. I feel like I'm rambling right now because it sucks, and I don't want to say that Sirius is dead, and I hate saying that, and we've spent a couple books getting to know him and seeing how much he means to Harry at this point. Like this was his only family tie that he felt like he's ever had in his entire life. Like, this man has been the most important person to him in the last 2 years than anybody else has been up until this point. And he's barely got to see him, He doesn't get to live with him. He doesn't get to, like, spend every day with him. He cherishes every second that he's had. And it sucks. I have tried really hard not to say choice words right now, Matt, because I'm at a loss for how else to describe this. It hurts a lot, and I knew that losing a main character was a real possibility in the story, or many, or several, or a couple. I knew that there was that chance. But it's book 5. And I feel like we still have 2 books left. And if JK was willing to kill off Sirius now, I am so afraid of what's to come. Because while this person was like the closest parental figure to Harry that he's ever had, there are more people that are closer to him that mean more to him, probably, in different ways, that I will never be ready to say goodbye to. So if I'm having this much hard of a time with Sirius, I don't know what any other death is going to do to me.
I've wondered the same thing.
Like, I sat there for several minutes thinking, maybe he's not dead. Maybe he's not gone. Maybe this is just a swerve. But I will be really mad if it's not real, I guess, at this point. Like, part of me wants to think, I wish this could be undone, or I wish this was a dream, or I wish this didn't really happen. But I will be really upset if I'm being forced to put through this emotional trauma just for it to be joke's on you type of thing. But like, that feels really bad, because then it feels like I don't want Sirius to be okay, because I do, but it just, I don't know, man. It just, the thing that got me, I think the worst about it, the thing that made it the most real and the most impactful was Lupin holding Harry back.
Yeah.
Yeah. This chapter sucks, Matt. Let's do some emails. I don't know what else to say.
That's fine. It's quite all right. We can do that. A couple of these emails I might actually take out of order just to line them up a little better. But
okay. I trust you.
I think our first email this week, we have a few people who are still catching up, and I questioned not putting them in this episode, but then I don't know when I'd put them in. It's just, we'll do it anyway.
Yeah.
So our first email comes from Kristen.
Hi, Kristen.
It says, Dear Josh and Matt, I'm currently on episode 35. By the way, she titled this, Josh is my spirit animal. So I think you'll enjoy this.
Okay.
Just started Goblet of Fire. I really wanted to wait to email until I caught up, but I have now heard 3 references to Gilmore Girls, and I feel like I can't wait any longer to let you know my thoughts. First of all, I just finished binging all the Gilmore Guys podcasts, which took about 6 months, and I didn't think that I could find a replacement podcast that would talk about another one of my favorite subjects. I'm so glad I found you guys.
Us too.
Yeah.
Also, it's not the first time that we've had a Gilmore Guys reference on this show in an email segment. So
it's true.
I feel like the crossover needs to happen eventually.
Exactly. Weird correlation there. Yeah. I've decided Josh is my spirit animal. I was in his exact position about 7 years ago when I decided to give in and read all the Harry Potter books and watch the movies after my friend wouldn't stop bugging me. I had a unique way of reading them because I utilized the library and I wanted to make good use of my time. So I had to check out both the book and the audiobook. I listened to the audiobook for 2 hours on my work commute, and then at home in the evenings and on the weekends, I would find where the audio left off and I began reading. I even found my dad's old portable cassette player, You know, the yellow one that everyone had in the early 90s?
Nice.
And I rigged it to my car's stereo system with the aux cord, so I could listen to a few audiobooks that weren't available at the library on CD. I was determined not to waste valuable time in the car.
I like the resourcefulness.
Yes, definitely. Anyway, like Josh, I am a lover of all creatures, even the flobberworms.
Yes. Wait.
And especially little tiny baby owl pig. And I'm terrified of spiders as well. I, of course, also love the mandrakes, and Buckbeak and Hagrid is wonderful. I also drove my friend crazy by telling her constantly how much the movies did not do the books justice. They would make me so angry. I actually have only watched them twice. So I am now going to be watching them for the third time, and I still get angry. People who didn't read the books and don't even know about Spew or that Winky exists. That's such a tragedy.
It is. It's horrible.
Yeah.
I don't want to live in a world where people don't know Winky exists.
My two favorite characters are Sirius and Dobby. Matt, I still can't forgive you for not liking Dobby. That poor, adorable creature is so sad and lovable. Both their deaths were the saddest thing. Yeah. Wait. Yeah, it doesn't. Okay. One other thing I'm very surprised about is that Josh is not very intrigued by Dumbledore. I love to figure things out, and was full of theories as well when I read. And Dumbledore was my number one intriguing character. I was convinced he was one of the creators of the Marauders map, and there was a reason Harry always had the help he needed to save the day. I, interestingly enough, never really liked Harry that much. It was everyone around him that made him great, I think.
I don't know what my beef is with Dumbledore. I still haven't figured that out.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe someday.
Run that time, Matt.
One other thing, there's a Harry Potter pub crawl in Chicago next weekend that I will be attending. And I will, of course, be dressed as Hermione when she created Spew. I have my time turner, my wand, Spew pin, and a sock for Dobby.
Nice.
Originally, I was going to make a shirt that listed all the deaths from the books in the order in the shape of a lightning bolt. But then I realized there could be others like Josh that might be there. So I decided to remain spoiler-free for the most part.
There we go.
Thanks again for the podcast. I'm sure I'll email again when I catch up. Also, tell Josh he really needs to check out the Gilmore Guys podcast.
Yeah.
Have you listened to that at all?
I have not. No.
Okay.
No.
Like, I know we've talked about it. Like, we know it exists. But,
right. Because I think they go one episode at a time.
Okay.
And I don't have time to go back and watch the episodes of Gilmore Girls to go along with the like. I don't know how you guys do it with like this podcast, but you know, I've heard it's wonderful. I totally have heard nothing but good things about it. So maybe one of these I'll check it out just to see what they're about.
Sure.
Thank you, Kristen.
Next email comes from Joe.
Hi, Joe.
Says, hi, Matt and Josh. I was listening to the last episode. I wanted to pick up on a few points about the education in the Wizarding World. It may seem odd, but to British readers, the exam system at Hogwarts is totally familiar. At 15 or 16, kids sit exams that do dictate a lot of their life choices. It was comforting to read about the characters' experience in so much detail, especially as Book 5 came out in the summer. I was waiting for my exam results. Another thing is the timetable at Hogwarts. When we were learning to use software that programs a timetable in high school, or for a high school of 3,000 students, I had to invent a school, classes, teachers, etc. So naturally, I chose Hogwarts. Unfortunately, it turns out that a timetable really wouldn't work. There are not enough teachers at Hogwarts for the number of classes that would need to be going on at any one given time. Maybe all the teachers have time turners and they are the most overworked teaching staff in the world? Or maybe there are a bunch of other teachers that don't teach the trio, so we just don't know about them. I imagine Josh is pretty upset with how the reading ends this week, so I thought I'd lighten the tone a little bit.
Thank you, Joe. I don't know how you're lightening the tone with like learning about school things, but I guess it kind of worked, yeah.
All right. Next email from Kip.
Kip. Hi, Kip. That's a new name.
I believe it is. It says, hi, guys. Long-time listener here. Finally trying to commit to being a regular email contributor. Sorry for not writing in sooner. I usually have a busy work week as a chocolate maker.
What?
Kip, I think we might need a little more info.
Oh, totally.
Maybe sample product or just saying.
I have so many questions.
Lupin would approve.
Yeah, that's true. I need chocolate right now, Matt.
I wanted to start by saying that my favorite film of all time is Home Alone 3. Just joshing.
Kip. Tonight is not the night, my friend.
Anyway, it upsets me that Josh is bored with the world building chapters. I remember my first read through loving the everyday chapters. It was what I always thought the movies lacked. I would love to see a television series or an animated Harry Potter with all the subplots of the books as they are written. A fan can dream. I'm sure this week's chapters will give Josh what he's been looking for, but with a price. R.I.P. Sirius. These are some of my favorite chapters in the series, despite the loss, which brought me to tears the first time reading. The Department of Mysteries has so many rooms that weren't discovered. Any ideas to what the other rooms could contain based on the rooms we encountered?
It's probably just a lot of horrible things, all around.
Yeah, there's so much that could be going on in there.
Yeah. Nothing good in any of them.
Almost on to my favorite book in the series, Half-Blood Prince.
Also, I will say about the world building chapters.
Yeah?
It's not that I don't like them.
Okay.
There were just so many of them in this book particularly that it just got too much. The balance was not even as far as world building and action, you know? Because I've enjoyed them in all the other books.
Yeah.
You know, even when they were boring chapters, I'm like, oh, that was nice and boring, but, you know, I still picked up on something here and there.
Once again, it's we get all our action at the end.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as...
But this book's like 5 times as long as the first one, you know?
I know, but you just said tonight, like, this last chapter just has so much packed into it. Like, it's a full action movie in and of itself.
Yeah.
Like, it has so much.
I don't want them anymore. I don't know. I want to go back to the boring chapters, Matt.
And I think the other contrasting chapter we have to world building chapters, even if you don't necessarily care for them all the time, were the Quidditch chapters.
Yeah. Which
we didn't really have in this book.
Right.
Because Harry's not playing Quidditch.
Right. We didn't get him last book either.
So that was the other thing that we were missing to break it up.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of things missing, Matt.
All right.
Like, I want to go back to, like, young, dumb romance. Can we go back to that?
Maybe someday. But they're growing up. Let's see here. We can probably read this whole thing. So the next topic, I think the rest of our emails are purely about this week. I think that's all the new listener type of things going on.
Okay.
Next thing I wanted to address, though, is I don't know if Val talked to you about this at all, but she wrote in.
She did.
Okay.
And I told her, I asked her if it was for the show or for you specifically. She said she wanted it on the show. I said, well, be sure to let Matt know that you want it read on the show, or else he's just going to read it and just reply back to you knowing that it's you.
Well, we got the attack of Caps Lock Val. the subject line in all caps, to be read on tonight's show, please.
Well, at least she said please.
Yeah. Yeah. So Val says, we have to read all 3 chapters next week. I cannot handle dragging this out. I already have a hard time stopping this week. Please don't make me torture Josh, or myself for that matter, any further. P.S. Do you know how hard it is to read aloud when you're starting to tear up because you know what happens? It's so hard. Yep. So she kind of commiserates with Brent, who wrote in. Well, I'll just read his whole email here, but You'll see that he kind of comes up with the same thing. Says, "Dear Matt and the Muggle, here's a huge hug. The emotions are real. For everyone involved, they are real. Even for JK, they were real. But this is a war, and there are casualties in war. The first death is always one of the hardest. Some are meaningless, but this one was meaningful. And I have to think this is how Sirius would have wanted to go out in battle. Welcome to the Second Great War. Matt, you may have received some grief from last week's chapter break, but this week's chapter break was perfect, and your reasons for doing so, perfect. Bravo. I have one request. Can we please just finish the book next week instead of splitting it into 2 more weeks? Please. On another note, I'm struck at the introduction of Bellatrix, especially in contrast to Dumbridge. Dumbridge may be vile, one might say evil, and they wouldn't be wrong. But Bellatrix is just sadistic, purely sadistic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, given those two pleas, I think we will go ahead and make next week officially a 3-week chapter again. I will warn you, though, you're going to want to plot some extra time because putting those 3 chapters together makes it our longest reading to date.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, that's in particular for you and Val, I guess.
Okay, let me ask you this before we 100% commit to this.
Okay.
Was the breakup of 2 chapters and then 1 final chapter the next week for story plot reasons or because of the length of all 3 chapters combined?
I looked into that and I couldn't find any reason why I necessarily split it that way. I believe I did it mostly for length.
Okay. Let's finish it.
All right.
Okay. There you go, folks. Official.
3 chapters next week. Finish the book.
That's it. And then I'm going to need a week to recover, and then we'll do the movie episode. Right? Is that how that works?
I don't know about that.
Okay.
I don't think the people are going to want to wait that long. But, yeah, we can give them that.
Yeah. There we go.
So, there you go, Val. Brent, your wish has been granted.
Talk Matt into it.
All right. Back to the rest of the emails. We have one from Edgar.
Hi, Edgar.
Says, Dear Professor and the Muggle, it finally caught up with podcast. Now the dreaded wait. Mm-hmm. In the meantime, here are a few thoughts. 1, Hermione can really think on her feet. I don't know if I could come up with that idea under pressure. It's true.
Yeah.
2, I really cringed when Dumbridge says, "My life is more valuable to the minister." What's her record in the ministry? Has she ever done anything of importance there?
I guess she sees control of Hogwarts.
Yeah, but I mean that's something that just kind of happened. I mean,
yeah, but she takes credit for it. You know, she does.
Yeah. Anyway, 3. What does the Muggle think Dumbridge's fate is going to look like? Are we going to see her again?
Yeah, we will. Come on.
4, everyone to the rescue. Grop, the DA, Thestrals. List goes on. 5, how does the Thestrals GPS system work? Any theories from the professor? I like that he mentions GPS because that's exactly what I think of when I read it in the book. Because Harry like tells him where he needs to go, and they just kind of sit there for a little while. And in my head, I'm like, recalculating shortest distance. Thank you, Thestrals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like they're probably checking like the wind, and, temperature, and like fastest route type of thing.
It's true. Yeah. I mean, or maybe just like communicating with each other. It's like, all right, I'm going to take the lead. You guys all know where we're going? Have you been there before? All right, let's go.
Maybe just subtly like hinting at like, we're going to do what you ask us to do, but we're still doing it on our terms.
Got a little bit of centaur in them?
A little bit, Like, we'll do it. We're going to do it.
We'll still help you, but yeah.
We're not show ponies here, Are there actual horses in the wizarding world? Because every other horse-like creature is just kind of arrogant and cocky.
They have been so far, yeah, I guess. Yeah. At least we're making them that way now.
The Thestrals are sassy. That's what they are.
I mean, even like the hippogriffs.
Yeah, yeah.
God, like you try to ride them, but yeah, you gotta bow to them. Yeah.
Something wrong here.
6. The telephone box's voice is very funny. I'm curious, how was Val's interpretation of that voice?
Calm and soothing.
All right.
Yeah, like not like Trelawney type calm and soothing, but very robotic, very like exactly how you would picture it sounding is probably how Val nailed it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Then he wants to know about the inscription that we asked you about.
Yeah,
so you wrote down. You'll have to think about that.
Those letters mean nothing to me. I'm sorry.
7. What does Josh think about the meeting with Bellatrix?
She's horrible. She's so bad. I hate her. Now I hate her even more.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, that's all we got from Edgar this week.
Thanks, Edgar.
All the way from India. Let's see, next email comes from Emily.
Hi, Emily.
Oh, dear Josh and Matt. On the subject of the Harry Otter shirts that multiple fans have been sending in. These are very familiar to me. I grew up in Juneau, Alaska, which is a coastal city and very touristy, as it is the capital of our amazing state. And because the otter featured on this shirt is a sea otter, shout out to the Ottercast, which was amazing, I have seen them everywhere. I love them so much, and having them brought into the show is a great reminder of home to me. I love the effect my email had in episode 64. And as there were some questions, I will provide some answers. Yes, this may be read out loud on the show. I'm totally open. How I met Warwick Davis and his family.
Okay.
As I have previously mentioned, I'm an LP, or little person. I stand at 4 foot 5 inches tall, and I'm considered quite tall for an LP. I have a form of dwarfism called... I'm just going to say SEDC. The full name is as complicated as some of the spells we learned, and I will spare you, Matt. Thank you. As dwarfism isn't that common, we have a community called the LPA, the Little People of America, and it is super organized and has all sorts of get-togethers, including a national convention, which is a blast to go to. So the first convention I ever went to was in 2013 in the Lesser Washington, also known as Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. Well, Mr. Davis and his family were also in attendance, and I got to meet them there. Mr. Davis has used his fame for many wonderful advocacy things, including starting the LPUK, the Little People of the United Kingdom, over on the other side of the pond in 2012. For comparison, The LPA started in 1957.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, the UK is a little behind on that one.
Yeah.
They are great and caring people and have done wonderful things for the international LP community. Get to know. Josh and I are BFFs. I'm so excited to hear this. Does this mean that we get best friend necklaces or something? I might need to look into this. Bracelets?
Yeah.
Okay. Also, just listen to the episode 64, obviously, where you and Matt explain your logic on your comment about Fleur is too pretty to win the Triwizard Tournament. What you said makes a lot of sense, and I apologize for coming down on you in the past email, which I haven't heard yet, so I will defend yourself. I haven't heard you defend yourself and make it. It makes this lots of weird and confusing. Being a time traveler is so very difficult.
It's true.
Yeah. Surgery results. Yes, I did have surgery, and I'm recovering well. Good. I have /had carpal tunnel in both hands and was having that repaired. The left one is done and recovering wonderfully, and the right hand will be done in a fortnight. I don't usually use that word, but I couldn't turn down the opportunity. Thank you for your well wishes. I will treasure them. You know, pretty soon we're going to have just all of America using Fortnite, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we're starting a revolution, Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't say I've used it anywhere but in this podcast yet.
Sure. But there's times where it's like, you know what? I could maybe use Fortnite here.
If I ever run across a 2-week period, I might have to do that.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
We'll see. The cheesehead debate. Kim, I apologize that I confused you with the cheesehead thing and American football. And as much as I would love to talk to you about it, Josh has whined about the amount of cheese in this podcast, so I will refrain. My sister, her name is Alina. I introduced her to the podcast, and I hope she'll be a listener too. On that subject, my nephew's mom, Jessie, overheard me listening and wants to start listening too. There are a couple, couple new listeners. That'll be good.
I expect emails from both of them.
We'll see how that goes. When they get caught up, I suppose.
Yeah.
Then there are a couple of thoughts on my episode 65 email. My good timing. This is hilarious, not only because it lines up so well with the show unintentionally, but I am notoriously tardy. I try so hard to be on time, but can never quite get it. I've decided it's just who I am as a person.
Sure.
Then there was Anthony. She mentioned him a couple of times, I think in relation to football and the Packers and stuff. And
okay.
Like, I couldn't remember if we knew who he was or not.
Right.
So I'm like, maybe a boyfriend or something. Anthony is my nephew, not my boyfriend. I wish I could find someone who loves me like he does, even if he's starting to say no. And why? More and more. Forcing me to work on my patience. He's only 2.5 years old, and I always talk about him.
Well, boys don't get any better, so just saying.
Now on to the show. Josh guessed that Hagrid had a giant? Are you kidding me? How do you do that? I mean, yes, your reasons were quite sound. It must be that you have a week to ponder about the reading, so unlike us who power through, you have time to come up with theories. I must admit, I have now started reading long, and I'm forcing myself to slow down and savor every word, not jump to paragraphs I know are coming, or let my eyes scan instead of actually ingesting the paragraphs that I know are not as important. It's a reading style change, and I love it. I'm finally following on Facebook. Pretty sure I now have all the forums: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and the website. Sounds about right.
Wait till we're on Pinterest and Snapchat.
I'm not touching those. That's all you, buddy.
I just want to keep making accounts for people to follow. Just
Nope, you don't got them yet. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I'm a little Slytherin sometimes.
All right. Home Alone 3 is cute. And yes, it's not very good, but something about chickenpox and endless itching is funny. Home Alone 4 is another story completely. I wish I could remove that memory from my head, put it in a vial, and lose it someplace far away. And I hate to break it to you, but they made a Home Alone 5.
Nope. Stop it. Just nope.
Yes, that's right. And here are pictures to prove it.
Fun story. I am really allergic to chickenpox. I have had chickenpox like 4 or 5 times in my life.
You're allergic to chicken pox?
Yeah, I've had it 4 or 5 times in my life.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't think that was supposed to happen.
Nope, not supposed to, but very rarely people don't build up the immunity that you normally would from having them, and you just keep getting them.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's fun.
She says...
That's just...
Yeah. She says 4 is 100 times worse than 3, and thus, by the time I heard number 5, I had completely given up hope.
Yeah.
Can we just agree that only Home Alone 1 and 2 are canon?
Yep.
And that 3 is part of the world, but not canon? The rest can cease to exist.
Here's the thing. They're not even confident in this to the point where they don't even put a 5 on it.
I noticed that too.
Yeah. Also, why do all these dumb kids have to make that face? That's because a Kevin McAllister face. It's not a Home Alone face.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah. But no, I can't even include 3 in the world.
No.
Sorry.
No.
1 and 2. That's it.
Sure.
That's all that exists. Josh, when you said we're one big family here, it was very touching. I'm glad to have found such a wonderful community. Maybe the reason Josh keeps saying the Ministry of Magic as the department is because he's really thinking the ministry is the Department of Dumb. It makes sense as Dumbridge works for them, just saying. Taryn is studying deaf studies. Remember to enunciate that, Matt. I tried. Awesome. My minor was in American Sign Language. My major was English. Well, there are no official signs for Harry Potter things. Many fans have come up with their own and have actually published them on the interwebs. This is my favorite site of them that my friend and I have explored, adopted, and are teaching to Anthony, who signs proficiently as well.
Nice.
So yeah, I haven't actually looked at this website yet, but
yeah, I probably check that out before I glance at it.
That's true. I'm not going to send it to you right now, but I will definitely put it in the show notes for everyone else to look at.
Sure.
Cool. But yeah, that's interesting. I never even thought about that. And with that, I'm caught up. No longer a time traveler. I'm beyond excited, though I don't know what to do with all of the time I have now. As mentioned, I've started reading along, and it has helped a bit. So on to this week's readings. Beginning of chapter 34 gives a good description of Thestrals as Harry mounts his. They have manes, silken hides, wings, and fangs. Up until this moment, I had imagined them, probably thanks to the movie, as bald, emaciated horses with leather for skin and wings. The book version doesn't seem that creepy until the fangs come around. And I love that Luna is so confident with them. She truly shines here. And can you imagine not being able to see the Thestrals, but seeing people on top of them? They're funny animals, in my opinion. The thought just occurred to me. The ministry is closed for the night. Obviously, or they would have run into so many people once they entered. But the visitors' entrance still let them in. 6 underaged and unaccompanied witches and wizards. What the heck type of security are they running? No wonder the place gets broken into all the time.
I mean, I guess if you get that far into the process, like, you probably at least know what you're doing going in there, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
Harry knew what to do because he had been in the ministry before.
Yeah, and that's part of it. There was, like, okay, 1, you have to know the phone booth is there.
Yeah.
2, you have to have the code.
Right.
Which not everybody has. Harry knew it because, like you said, he'd been there before through that entrance.
Yep.
And I mean, then 3, there's always going to be, I'm assuming they're making a record of the people that visit through the entrance, not just to print badges for them to wear, but to actually know who was there.
Mm-hmm.
So you at least have that. But yeah, we thus far at least haven't seen anybody get rejected from the visitor entrance or anything like that. So if they gather all that information, yeah, it might be kind of easy to break in.
Yeah.
Although the people we've seen break in too are usually people that work there, I think, or at least know people who work there. So
it's complicated.
Yeah, there's always going to be a way. Also, the Death Eaters call Voldy the Dark Lord, and everyone else says he who should not be named, except for Dumbledore. Then there's Harry, and those he teaches to follow his example, who call him Voldemort. But everyone freaks out about it. Bellatrix says, "You dare speak his name?" Well, duh, that's the name he fashioned for himself. He said so in book 2. I mean, he picked it out himself and probably spent a lot of time rearranging the letters of Tom Marvolo Riddle to make I am Lord Voldemort. So really, it seems rude to ignore what name he gave himself.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. He put thought into it.
Yeah. Need more reasons to love Neville? I present you with Chapter 35. He knows how to, and does, feel for a pulse. Continues to fight through a broken nose, which included talking, and when unable to defend with magic, he stabs a Death Eater in the eyeball with his wand. Bravo, Neville. Bravo. Oh, Sirius. My heart aches once again for your untimely and unfair death. Josh, I'm so sorry. I vividly remember watching the movie with my dad. One he had seen before, but I was watching for the first time. About halfway through, he wrapped his arm around me and pulled me close and held me tight. I did not know why, but I was so engaged in the movie that I didn't pull away. And then the scene happened that ripped me to my core due to my own life experiences and left me sobbing and curled into my father's embrace. That is how I felt for you, Josh, knowing this was coming. I wanted someone to be there and hold you tight as the bad news hit you, to support you and let you grieve. I am so sorry, my friend. With a heavy heart, Emily.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right.
How about those Thestrals, huh?
Oh, yeah. Don't worry. We're going to have a few of these. Next email comes from Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
It says, Dear Josh, Matt and Josh, first, apologies for the long email, but I've had so much bottled up inside for months, and it's finally pouring out. I had hoped to be fully caught up by the time I got to the chapters in this week's episode and in anticipation of Book 6, but alas, you've given us so much discussion and analysis that it was impossible. I'm presently on episode 61, which covered chapters 22 and 23, which was Christmas time in St. Mungo's. While listening to that episode, I had to hit pause to write because I'm listening to Josh go on and on about Lockhart's reappearance. Apparently, the real he who must not be named to Josh is Lockhart and not Voldy.
Yeah.
And how bummed Josh is to hear about poor Neville's parents. This moment in your podcast has a swirl of emotions for me, and I feel compelled to write, especially since I know that Josh is about to experience the end of Chapter 35 this week, the loss of Sirius Black, Beyond the Veil. At the conclusion of Book 4, we all learned what kind of series Joe was writing. Initially, the story was aimed and marketed at children, but it never really illustrates life as anything other than what it is, a mix of highs and lows, of joyous moments and horrific losses. What I appreciate most about the chapters at St. Mungo's is that Rowling shows the consequences of choices, the realities of war, and the painful side of sacrifice, in addition to the honorable side most of us choose to celebrate instead. The humorous justice to Lockhart at the end of Chamber of Secrets is revealed to be actually quite tragic. It has led to Lockhart's near total incapacitation, a sad thing no matter how awful he is. And Frank and Alice Longbottom's courage against Voldemort resulted in their truly pathetic insanity, even half-lives. But the tragic loss of Sirius is the most painful one of all. Josh, I'm sorry you have joined the ranks of millions who have learned of Sirius's fate and mourn with and for Harry losing another loved one too soon. And having heard the genuine sadness in your voice for the death of the hapless Cedric Diggory at the end of Goblet of Fire, I knew this would be difficult for you. But Rowling's ability to make us feel for the loss of such characters is a testimony to her genius as a writer. At its heart, the Harry Potter series is ultimately about love and death and loss, and individual attitudes and choices surrounding love and death and loss. This central insight is hinted at in the very first and last chapters of the first book. Dumbledore's wise words, of course, and she painfully drives it home here. On another note, I want to say thank you, particularly to Josh, for enduring this torturous project. I would go absolutely nuts if I had to read and listen to the series the way Josh does, waiting a week between 2 chapters or so. This is not the way it's supposed to be. Most of us speed read through the books the first time and took a slower approach the second and third and fourth, etc., to better enjoy the details and richness of the world and the story. As much as I enjoy the podcast, I genuinely feel that Josh is sacrificing the pleasure he would have otherwise have if he could read the books like a normal human being. I'm actually dead serious about this, and even feel a bit guilty about it. It was one of the reasons I became a patron last month. Thus, I raise my wand in the air to Josh from during this psychological torture experiment for our enjoyment. I only hope that you understand that this waiting a week between chapters is one of the reasons for your criticisms of this particular book. It truly detracts from your experience. The world building and character development and backstory, which you have occasionally poo-pooed, are huge and important from here on out, and I sincerely hope that you'll keep that in mind, and keep your attitude in check about the pace and development of the story. And if not, I'll be sending you howlers during the last 2 books to remind you.
As long as they're filled with chocolate from Kip, then we're okay.
Perfect. Jeff, Kip, get together. There you go. Greatly looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the final chapters of this book, and as we move into the best book of the series, Book 6, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, and then the eventual epic conclusion in Book 7.
I'm not ready. You know, I had this realization over the last 24 hours, Matt.
Yeah?
What it would be like to go back to that first book. It's just so innocent and so dumb and carefree and inconsequential. You know?
Sure.
Like, yeah, sure. World building and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah,
whatever.
Things happen, but yeah, it's essentially a big intro to Harry Potter.
Yeah. It's just so light-hearted compared to all this nonsense going on right now. I just want to be a kid again, Matt. I don't want to grow up.
Oh, yeah. We all can relate to that, I think.
Yep.
Next email then comes from Harry, not Potter.
Hi, Harry, not Potter.
Says, hey, guys. I'm still catching up to the podcast. I'm still back into happier times with Centaurs and Sneaks. But I knew this week's reading was coming up soon. Josh, looking at your notes, I know you are hurting, mad, and or confused right now. Just know that the listeners are hurting right along with you. No matter how many times you read the books, this part is still pretty tough. And the ambiguity of the writing does not make things any easier. Let it all out, man. We are here for you. We are your Harry Potter support group. The Josh's army, if you will.
It's true. I like that.
Yeah. P.S. Please don't be mad at Matt for this week's reading schedule. I think we all need a little time to step back and digest what happened after chapter 35.
Yep.
I think we're okay with that now.
Yeah. I had to address that at the top of the show. So.
Oh, yeah. Next email then from Joe.
Hi, Joe.
Hey, guys. I knew this was going to be a tough read for Josh after hearing his comments in the past couple of weeks throughout the shows. I knew he wasn't going to see this coming and would turn him into mush all over again. But we feel your pain. I want to make one comment on last week and then jump into this week. There was a lot of talk about the Owls chapter being boring, and Josh was expecting more of a payoff with it. I always looked at them similar to Regents exams in high school. My entire 11th grade the 11th grade year was making sure you were prepared to take those exams because they were important for your future. So you were constantly being reminded of them throughout the year, and you did your best to learn the material because you knew it would be on the exams. When the time came for you to take your Regents, it ended up being very similar to any other final exam you would have taken throughout middle school or high school. The grade was just more weighty than usual. So I understand why they kept mentioning them throughout the books, but I wasn't surprised when the time came and they got to the exams and there wasn't much to them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Like I said, it's just a test, just an exam. Now on to these chapters. When they first started heading into the forest, I assumed they were making their way to Grop, until Harry said that they weren't going in that direction. They're going towards Aragog, which would have been a disaster. Then I started to wonder if Hermione was just walking as far into the forest as she could, hoping to bump into something. Kind of.
Yeah.
The Centaur's interaction was cool with Umbridge, and you could tell that there was going to be a problem between them, and that was going to work out in Harry and Hermione's favor. And he thought they were going to get out of it, but then the Centaurs wanted to take Harry and Hermione away too. As smart as they are, they have no compassion and no reasoning. And then comes Grop, who everyone wrote off and thought would never make any progress. But he remembers Hermie. Maybe Hagrid wasn't as crazy as we think he is.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, he's still crazy.
Yeah, but I will admit, Grop made more progress than I ever thought he would.
Yeah.
Luna saves the day with the suggestion of the Thestrals. I had to laugh when Harry said that the crew was the last people he would have picked from the DA to come with him to the Ministry. I'd agree, except maybe for Ginny. I thought she always showed some promise and was one of the better ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does seem a little odd that she gets lumped in with Neville.
Well, she'll always just be the little sister, you know?
Yeah.
Like, she's not going to get that respect.
I can see that. I really enjoyed how well written chapters 34 and 35 are, filled with drama, suspense, and emotions. The journey of how they found the room and then the entire fight scene that commenced afterwards was so good that it almost felt like I was watching it all unfold. You got to be proud of how well the kids fought, and you could make some argument that outside of Harry, Neville and Luna, the two he didn't want with them, did the best. To see Neville in the fight to the very end with a broken nose without any quit inside of him really warmed my heart. The one thing that twisted my stomach, though, was when Bellatrix decided to use the Cruciatus Curse on Neville the way she did with his parents. Completely gut-wrenching.
Yeah.
You know when the Order arrives, it's going to go down. Such an epic fight scene. Seeing everyone in action. You wouldn't have expected Moody to go down with all his experience, though. Proves how well Death Eaters are at dueling. But also in turn proves how well the job the kids did. And then there's the big return of Dumbledore, who made that one Death Eater look quite foolish. But even Dumbledore couldn't stop what would happen next. Sirius. This was tough. We don't really know much about that veil, but it looks like wherever he went, he's not coming back. So many things race through my mind. First, being why Sirius felt the need to trash talk in mid-duel. Like he was trying to impress Harry or something. But then was caught off guard in the next scene by Bellatrix. And then he's gone. I really feel for Harry. If Harry had just worked on his occlumency or had not been fooled by the dream, he would have never went to the Ministry. Which then the Order never went to the Ministry and Sirius wouldn't have to put himself in this position. Harry went with the intentions to save Sirius's life. But in turn, it looks like he may have cost Sirius his life. I just really hope Harry can cope with this.
How did the Order know that they were there? I have so many questions.
There are still many questions, yes.
Because
yeah,
going to make me feel better, but yeah.
All right. Next email from Miri.
Hi, Miri.
I appreciate this one. Can we all just agree that Alex saying Home Alone 3 is the best in the series disqualifies him from complaining about all the Harry Potter movies moving forward?
Yes, absolutely. That's a group vote right there.
Alex, we do not trust your judgment in movies.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mary. Next email from Hannah.
Hi, Hannah.
Hi, Josh and Matt. I'll start off with a simple question to Josh. How are you?
Horrible.
I know you've probably talked about this on the episode already, but I want to make sure that your emotional well-being is taken care of. It's okay to not be okay. Just know that you are not alone in that feeling. I've been contemplating how to write this inevitable email for quite some time. Knowing how wrenching this death is for me, and anticipating how painful it would be for you, Josh, I'm so sorry that it has to be written now. When I was 16, my dad died suddenly. One morning, he wasn't feeling well, and my mom took him to the hospital because he was having some trouble breathing. She came back after a couple hours and said he was fine, and the doctors just wanted to keep him overnight for observation. An hour later, he died. 7 years later, we still don't have a good answer on why he died. The doctors botched the autopsy and failed to identify what was wrong in the first place. I never got to say goodbye. My father was my mentor and counselor. He was funny and passionate, always ready to debate an issue or push you to think a little deeper about something. I still needed him. I still do. And he's just gone. This is probably not what you needed to hear as you process this tragedy, but it makes Sirius's death painfully real for me. Harry has had a life and childhood that include trauma and pain that I can never imagine. But in the moment where he loses the only man he ever viewed, even at close to a father, I fall apart. I know what it feels like to have someone ripped from you way too young, when you still need guidance and support, to feel lost and confused in the grief, and I'm anticipating all of that pain for Harry. I also feel anger. I also feel anger that stems from how unfair this is. Sirius's life was filled with tragedy and loss and injustice, and then he dies. He dies too young. He dies before he has a good chance to be a family with Harry. And Harry watches him die. I'm so afraid for how Harry is going to handle Sirius's death. The guilt, the agony, the loneliness, the loss. Once again, he is stripped of even a chance for a family. And Lupin, poor Lupin, his closest friend, the last of his best friends, dies in front of him, and he has to restrain Harry, when I'm sure his own heart was crying out just as loudly. My heart is aching. Josh, I doubt you're okay, especially if Twitter was any indication. I know I'm not okay, especially having to stop at the words, he's gone. But please continue to stick it out with Harry. His grief is very real and painful and raw. The times ahead for Harry have lots of ups and downs. This is not the last bit of pain for him. But if you stick it out to the end, you will have come to the end of a beautiful story, full of pain and loss, but beauty and love as well. And as with real life, the darkness that makes the light shine much more brightly, I think. The evil makes the beauty that much more cherished. Don't give up on Harry. His story is one worth finishing.
Yeah. I mean, I've come this far. I want to quit. Part of me does, but
I understand. I hope you won't.
We get to finish this book next week, Matt.
It's true. It's true. We're getting there.
It's the best news I've heard.
5 down, 2 to go.
Hours.
Next email from Katie.
Hi, Katie.
I'm not even
Is this
sure.
other Katie?
No.
Okay.
This is Katie with a Y. I'm not sure if we've heard from her before.
Katie the Fourth?
I don't know what we're at now. There's a lot of Katies out there.
Katie with a Y. Hi, Katie.
Hey, Matt and Josh. After reading the chapters, I really wish they found a way to contact the members of the Order immediately. For all we know, after Harry had the vision, Voldemort is torturing Sirius in the Department of Mysteries. Harry wants to go and save Sirius, but he doesn't want Neville, Ginny, and Luna to help. I think he knows how dangerous it's going to be. They're all underage, so how do they plan to stop Voldemort? One of the most powerful wizards of all time. Just saying that the vision had been... Just imagine the vision had been real. I doubt that it would have made any difference if there were 3 or 6 of them. Maybe Harry could have stopped Voldemort from killing Sirius by saying, "Here I am, now let Sirius go." But really, what does Voldemort care if Sirius lives or dies?
Yep.
But he just would have wanted to get rid of the other ones as fast as possible. I think it would have just been kill the spare all over again.
Yeah, they would have just been in the way.
Mm-hmm. There have been a lot of spares there. Yeah. They're useless to him and possibly able to cause unnecessary trouble. He'd have killed them right away. Yes, they put on a good fight against the Death Eaters, but I don't think they would have stood a chance against Voldemort. And Harry knows this. He saw him kill Cedric. He doesn't have a real plan to defeat Voldemort. So I totally get why he didn't want them to come. He just didn't want anyone else to die for him. I admire the Gryffindor bravery, but if the vision had been real, they probably all would have been killed as soon as they entered the Department of Mysteries. That being said, I really like the fight against the Death Eaters. It's one of my favorite fight scenes in the series.
Yeah. It's intense.
Yep. It's amazing they all made it through. Well, most of them.
Well, just dig that knife in a little bit deeper, Matt.
All right. Next email comes in from Lauren.
Hi, Warren.
Let's see. Oh, looks like we got another picture here. So we'll get that one ready to get over to you. Hey, Josh and Matt, we all knew this week was coming, but I think it hit me almost as hard as the first time I ever read this book, because I kept thinking about how you would react, Josh. After reading your notes this morning, I can tell that you are taking this just as poorly as the rest of us when we first read it. Despite the ending, these chapters are chock full of adventure, and for the first time, we have more characters along for the journey. I simply love the Silver Trio, Neville, Ginny, and Luna, as they are sometimes called. They are all so selfless. They volunteer to help Harry, Ron, and Hermione to save Sirius. Neville and Luna don't even know Sirius, and they're risking their lives for him and Harry. I also love how, without these three, the Golden Trio would have been in much more danger on this adventure. My absolute favorite Harry Potter shirt has a picture of these 6 characters. This is the one she attached. So it'll take a minute to send this over, if I can find it. Try to put them in the same place. She finishes up. Also, Bellatrix is evil, and I hate her. Josh, we grieve with you this week. Hang in there. The book is almost over. Yeah. It's a good group of 6 there.
Yeah. Is that Ron? To the right of Harry?
Yeah.
Doesn't look like him for some reason.
Yeah, his hair is a little weird in that picture, but
yeah,
it's Ron.
It must be Ginny on the far left.
Yeah, Ginny, Hermione, Harry, Ron, Luna, and Neville.
Sure.
Yeah, it doesn't help that, like, just the way they're placed in that picture, Ron looks really tiny.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's, like, the biggest one in the group right now.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess I can't really accurately see his freckles, so that's kind of freaking me out.
Yeah, where's the red hair?
He looks like one of the Beatles in that picture.
Oh, that'd be good. Yeah. Wonder if anyone's done that. I'm sure someone has.
Matt, yes.
All right. Next email comes from Maria.
Hi, Maria.
Says, I can't remember how many times I've read and listened to the books. What happened to Sirius never affected me. I never got sad. I never cried. I never missed him. But reading all these tweets from Josh is breaking my heart. I wish that I could say that it would get better, but I can't. The only thing I can do is send a virtual hug.
I'll take it.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Next email from one of our headmistresses, Marissa.
Hi, Marissa.
Hi, boys. Update on my life as a total nerd. I went to a WWE live event, and there's a wrestler that is named Aiden English.
Mm-hmm.
However, I kept calling him Aiden Lynch, and I couldn't figure out where I got that name from. So I looked it up. Josh, you know this one?
I don't think so.
Aiden Lynch is the Seeker from Ireland's Quidditch team.
Ha ha! Okay.
Yes, back in
Sure.
Book 4 at Quidditch World Cup.
Yeah.
Aiden Lynch.
Mm-hmm.
I officially pay more attention to incidental Harry Potter characters than fairly major characters from other things I'm also into.
There we go.
Also, I found the 20th anniversary magazine of Harry Potter at the Rite Aid we went to beforehand, and of course I bought it. This is what my life is like.
Sounds pretty lovely.
Harry had no idea what Hermione was planning. It's pretty much the theme of every book. She doesn't like to divulge her plans to the guys.
No.
Not that she had much of a choice in this instance. It's true. Harry kind of figured it out as he went along.
Yeah.
I
I
did
don't think she would
appreciate
have
that.
told him even if she could.
Yeah, probably not. She'd keep it to herself again.
Just let's go. Follow me.
Yeah.
You'll find out when we get there.
She wants credit for it. I'm not quite sure how to feel about Hermione's plan. It is effective, yes, but all it really accomplished was making the Centaurs really freaking angry. I mean, they did take Umbridge away, so it worked, but you don't want a bunch of angry Centaurs in the forest. And then Grawp shows up, and all he wants is Hagrid. It's an unforeseen sweet moment from the giant. Thestrals for the win. I'm a bit perturbed as to why Harry wouldn't want Ginny to go with them. Neville and Luna, I get a little more. She's pretty awesome and good, but she's pretty awesome and good with a few curses in the pinch. Maybe her views as a little sister. That could be why.
I think he's
Just seems
also
unfair.
had the trauma of seeing her, in
It's
a,
true, yeah.
in a position where she could have been killed.
We almost
so,
killed you once.
Yeah. Seeing
wanna
that with
do it
somebody,
again.
yeah, you kind of get a little bit more protective over them, I would assume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just Ron's little sister. It's almost like his little sister.
Yeah. It's everybody's it's the trio's little sister.
Pretty much, yeah. I really want Hermione to comment on the house elf being part of the fountain. Too bad she's so preoccupied. It's probably for the best.
Yeah. I forgot about that fountain.
What does Josh think is behind the door that wouldn't open?
Horrible, horrible things.
This goes from ominous to bad, ominous to bad to horrible really quick. There's not anything specific I feel compelled to talk about, though. Josh, I told Matt that you were going to hate him for the cutoff this week. I don't want you to threaten quitting again, as you did after the chapter with the professor who shall not be named. Just remember that you are not alone in your heartache. We all felt or feel it, too. It still hits me hard to this day. I know there are no words to make this better. It sucks. I know it does. I'm so sorry that this happened. Chin up, Muggle.
I'm trying.
All right. Next email from Caitlin,
Hi, Caitlin.
which
You think Caitlin is going by Caitlin just so she doesn't have to be another Katie?
Well, the way she spells it, I wouldn't even shorten it to Katie. Like she's a Caitlin.
Oh yeah, that's definitely Caitlin.
Yeah, I wouldn't shorten that one.
Names are funny.
So I believe this is going to be Caitlin's last episode before she leaves for Africa.
Oh, wow! I'm sorry. Jeez Louise, no pressure there, Matt.
Well, I did get a little insight from her sister.
Okay.
That also wrote in, Ashley. And apparently they are going to be relaying emails about the show.
Okay.
So we may still hear from Caitlin
Perfect.
over the next 2 years while she's in Africa.
Okay.
But not directly.
Sure.
So
I'll take it.
We'll see how this goes. In any case, this one is still from Caitlin. Says, I hope you have some butterbeer or fire whiskey or a bit of Lupin's chocolate to help you get through tonight's show. It seems that the longer Harry experiences this weird connection to Voldemort, the stronger his understanding of Voldy is. Which is good, right? It was only just last year that someone... oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, never mind. Neville comes in the clutch with reminding Harry of what the DA was all about. His grounding really helps the trio, I think, throughout their time at Hogwarts. Although, on the periphery, he plays such an important role for Harry, Ron, and Hermione, and I feel that he isn't appreciated enough. But hopefully one day he will be.
I did appreciate that. You know, he was like, why are we doing this if we're not going to use this? You know, we've been practicing this all year.
Exactly. That's kind of the note I made. It's like, yes, Harry, they're all members of the DA. Yeah. Like, once you have that in your head, you just can't make any excuses.
Yep.
Like I said, that's the whole purpose of it.
Absolutely.
Thestrals again. I'm with Matt. They have to be one of my favorite magical creatures. I certainly wouldn't mind them in my back garden, or I guess at the nearby butcher. She's going because they like raw meat.
Oh.
They would be hanging out.
Oh, okay. I totally read that wrong.
No, she's not trying to kill them here. No.
I don't know how Thestrals taste, but that's pretty aggressive.
They'd be invisible to most people anyway. I think they'd be hard to butcher and hard to... Hey, would you like this invisible meat?
Is the meat still invisible once the animal's dead? Or does it like...
Why not?
I don't know. Maybe it loses its magical ability to be invisible once it ceases to exist.
Let's not think about that.
That's going down a deep rabbit hole there.
Where were we?
I don't know. Talk about Thestrals and butchers, and I don't know. It's...
With Harry's rather poor memory for certain things, like history of magic lessons, I'm surprised he remembers the code for the visitor's entrance. Maybe when he was a kid he had a calculator, and so he knew what 62442 translates into, though. Although we only get a brief introduction to the dais with the veil, we see it shortly after when the unspeakable happens. There's loads of obvious death symbolism in Beyond the Veil, but why do you think J.K. placed it in the Ministry? What's the point? Or is there even an explanation? Honestly, I think, I mean, she didn't necessarily like place it in the Ministry. Like, I think it's in the Department of Mysteries because they don't want it out in the open.
Right.
Like, kind of like the Time Turners. Like, they know what the Time Turners do, but they want to keep them away from the public.
Yeah, For the best.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine if this veil was just like sitting out as a like tourist location?
Yeah, people just walk into it, never to be seen again.
I mean, yeah, sure, they put a rope around it. Don't go near it, but people don't listen to that.
People are dumb, Matt, is what you're trying to say.
Yep.
Natural curiosity is the death of us.
I mean, you saw Harry the first time he saw it.
Yeah.
Like, he was, like, being drawn into it.
Right.
Like, he wanted to explore it, and, like, yeah, just not good. I honestly, I think it's just down there basically for safekeeping.
Mm-hmm.
But first, let's have some good old Death Eater taunting and general horribleness. At least we get information that Dumbledore didn't want Harry to know about, which finally answers just a few of the many questions we have concerning Harry. While Bellatrix addressed this question, I still have issues with why Voldy didn't come in himself. He could have come under the cover of darkness, using his vast magical skills that we keep hearing about to conceal himself or smuggle himself in somehow. Yeah, kind of talked about that in the show.
Mm.
I understand why he didn't come.
What if he was there?
In theory, he could have been, but like, if he made the trek down there, why wouldn't he just grab the orb himself?
Don't know. Maybe there's reasons.
Maybe. Amidst all the fighting and escaping, we get a tidbit of Neville info. He's been using his dad's old wand, just like Ron used his brother Charlie's until it broke. I did make a note of that too.
Yeah.
It's like Ron isn't the only one using hand-me-down stuff.
But I think in Neville's case, it was a little bit more sentimental than I need a wand, so I'm going to use my dad's old wand. Like, Ron used his brother's old wands out of necessity. He wasn't like, oh, I love my brother so much, I just want to use his wand. You know.
Although, once Ron's broke, they didn't really have a problem buying him a new one.
Yeah, but again, they did what they had to do. You know, if he could get a hand-me-down, he's going to get a hand-me-down.
Yeah.
Whereas Neville, like, that was more sentimental. Like, knowing his dad's probably never going to use it again, like, that meant more to him to use it. I'm not saying that he didn't have to use it because of, necessity, but there was also greater meaning attached to it than Ron's using his older brother's wand, who, is still alive and kicking and doing well.
Yeah. She says, I'm sure using someone else's wand could have impaired his magical ability, and I can't wait to see what he does with the wand of his own.
That's a good point.
And now the part we've all been dreading since the beginning of Book 5. Or perhaps even earlier, since we heard Josh's reaction to Cedric. What is there to say? I'm heartbroken every time I read this scene. There's just no forgiving JK for any of it. Harry has lost so much already, and his life has barely begun. I just want Harry to get justice for Sirius. That's all.
Yeah. Yep.
Next email from Chelsea.
Hi, Chelsea.
Josh, I'm so sorry. I knew what was coming. I feel like you weren't as hopeful as you were when Cedric died. But I imagine this hurt just as bad. Probably even more. Because I've read this before and knew what was coming. I felt like I was savoring every last bit of Sirius that we had left. He didn't say much in this chapter, but I was holding on to every word he said. This never gets easier. He will always be my favorite character, and the hardest death to read or watch. I'm fully convinced that when I'm old and reading Harry Potter to my grandchildren, I will still get choked up at this scene. He was truly one of the best characters, and I don't need to go into detail about how much he meant to Harry. This is a true tragedy, and no one is ever ready for it. Now, let's try to focus on things that can distract us from this. With these 3 chapters, it gave us plenty of topics. I'm sure you enjoyed how Dumbridge met the Centaurs. It's so rewarding for her to be put in her place, and so much more. There's so much going on in the scenes at the Ministry, I don't even know what to write. All that sticks out is how proud I am of the characters that go with Harry. Ginny and Luna prove more than their worth in these scenes. Hermione is brilliant as always, and Ron is just as brave as the others. But I'm especially proud of Neville. He is a true hero at heart. I really hope you can find the energy to focus on the prophecy. I would love to hear your theories and thoughts on it. I know a lot of people have been annoyed with Sassy Harry in this book, but the sass he delivers to the Death Eaters when they're trying to get the prophecy is awesome. I actually smiled a little when he talked about Voldemort in front of them, even though I knew the tragedy that was to come. Lastly, you finally get to meet Bellatrix. I'm sure you never dreamed of a person more terrible than Dumbridge, but here she is.
Ta-da!
All my love as you grieve Sirius. Chelsea.
Let me guess, Bellatrix is the next Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher? I mean, we're just escalating in horrible people being that teacher, so why not, right?
I guess it's a possibility.
That's not an official theory or prediction, folks. Calm down.
All right.
That would take a lot to get her as a professor in Hogwarts. I
Would
would
it?
imagine. I think so.
All right. Well, next email comes from our other headmistress,
Hi, Mel
Mel
B.
B. Hey, Josh and Matt. Well, looks like a lot happened this week, and I don't care about most of it. When I first read this book, the chapters in the Ministry were so magical and wonderful, and while they were tense and a little scary, I was lulled into a false sense of security that everyone was going to be okay. But everything is not okay. As you know, Sirius is my favorite character. His struggles and his story really speak to me. For him to be gone just hurts so bad. He never got his freedom. He was a prisoner for 14 years. First in Azkaban, and then he was forced to be on the run, and finally he was locked in his childhood home, surrounded by all the bad memories from his youth. I feel as if Sirius was only living for Harry at this point. If not for Harry, he never would have agreed to stay locked up in Grimmauld Place. If not for Harry, he would have been more reckless and maybe lost even sooner. I'm kind of rambling because I never really found a way to put into words the sadness of losing Sirius for me. I know he's a fictional character, but I think you guys agree, and all the listeners agree, that they become real to us. But with time, it starts to hurt a little less. I truly treasure every scene Sirius is in and every mention he gets. And I appreciate the time I get to enjoy with him every time I reread the books. Josh, take a deep breath and take some time to process this. The community is here for you. The story goes on just as the world does when someone dies, and we'll move forward too. A very sad headmistress.
I just realized how unready I am for this movie.
And any reason in particular
This
why
chapter, this scene, this is going to be horrible to see. Like, in 2 weeks, Matt, I have to go through this again.
maybe they'll cut it.
No, because Val knew about it, so I know it's in the movie.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Oh. Plus, I feel like the entire Harry Potter fandom would have rebelled against the movie makers if they'd cut out that, of all things.
That's why it's their favorite movie.
It's not sad.
Next email comes from Rihanna.
Hi, Rihanna.
It says, hey guys, I'm writing from San Francisco this time.
Ooh.
Just spent the whole day at the zoo and aquarium seeing lots of fantastic muggle beasts.
That sounds amazing.
We also saw Macklemore and his daughter at the aquarium.
Huh.
That was cool and super random.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Josh, all I have to say is we all went through what you're going through now, and we still love the series. Hang in there. Matt, I think the way you broke up the chapters was just fine. No matter which way you broke them up, there would have been a cliffhanger or a difficult chapter to end on, which I think, Josh, you picked up on.
Yeah.
I always think about how hard it would be to fly on something you can't see. So you'd just be hundreds of feet. It'd be seeing hundreds of feet down the whole trip. I've been on one of those buildings with a glass floor hundreds of stories above the ground. Worst thing ever. What Ron, Ginny, and Hermione went through would make me so sick.
Yeah.
The Department of Mysteries is such a crazy place. They have thoughts and time basically at their disposal to tamper with? Is this what Area 51 would be like?
Would be or is?
Makes you wonder. Josh, you have finally met Bellatrix Lestrange. Pleasant character, eh?
Oh, just a peach.
Yeah. Her mocking at Harry drives me crazy every time. The end of this week's reading was too hectic to comment on. I'll just say that one of my favorite moments in the series happens in the next couple of chapters. Almost done, Josh. I think you're really going to like this movie, but we'll know in just a few weeks.
We will see.
Yeah.
Boy, I can't wait for the live tweeting during that thing.
Ooh, I forgot about that.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah. That'll. Oh boy. I don't know if I'm ready for this. All right. Last email. From the one, the only, Atari Alex.
Hi, Alex. Is he apologizing for his Home Alone 3 statement?
Dear Josh Met. Well, this is it. The week most people have been waiting for. Not me, though. I was waiting for Fred and George: The Great Escape. But before we get to the dark and depressing part of my email this week, I want to back up to last week briefly. Don't worry. I won't tell you why you're wrong about Home Alone 3.
Thanks, Alex.
What does a student do if they don't earn any owls or don't earn enough to maintain a full course load? Take Crabbe and Goyle, for instance. I have a feeling that without bribery or physical intimidation, they won't do very well on their exams. Do they retake the courses with the younger students? Are there special classes for older students who aren't smart enough to move on to the higher levels? Or do they just drop out of school after fifth year and go to Wizarding Mechanics School?
They probably help out in the kitchen with the house elves?
But we didn't see anybody else down there.
Well,
it was just house elves.
I think Crabbe and Goyle are setting the bar lower than it's ever been.
There had to be someone, though.
That's true. I don't know. It's a good question.
I mean, so, okay, we've seen, like, Fred and George. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, they got their owls. They're smart enough, fine. But, like we discussed, they can drop out.
Sure.
There's nothing, like, saying that you can't drop out. Like, you're still going to be underage.
Right.
So using magic is still going to get you in trouble. But, I mean, if you just wait a few years, then you can be a of-age wizard, and you're, like, it doesn't seem like you need a license to use magic or anything like that. So it's just, yeah, I think they could get away with it.
Yeah.
They're just not going to have the full education.
Sure. I don't think they were getting a full education to begin with, but that's just
not the way they did school, no.
Yeah.
Okay, enough of my nonsense. Let's get serious. Too soon?
Yes, way too soon, Alex.
Umbridge gets what's coming to her, and her bigoted views of society get her into a bad situation, which I'm sure made Josh very happy. Harry and company take a conveniently fast trip from Hogwarts to London, which makes me wonder why they bother taking the Hogwarts Express each year. They somehow manage to squeeze 6 teenagers into a phone booth, which, for some reason, doesn't have a charm on it to make it magically expand to allow room for more people. Alex, yes.
We don't know how big the phone booth is, to be fair.
They always talk about being crammed in there, though.
Yeah.
Like, I think...
I mean, Harry and Mr. Weasley were crammed in there.
Exactly. And so I wonder how they got 6 people in there. I mean, maybe maybe it did expand to fit the six, but just enough that they were still crammed in.
I mean, let's say like how Ron had to like bend his arm in a certain direction just to grab the like. It felt like there was no wiggle room at all. So I feel like if 6 teenagers wanted to fit into a phone booth, they could make it happen. Not comfortably, but they could make it happen.
Yeah, it's an odd thing. I mean, I think too, like it's supposed to blend in with the Muggle world.
Yeah.
Like if the Muggles got wind of this thing, like it's bigger on the inside, and it's just sitting there in the middle of Muggletown, like that's going to be a problem.
Yeah,
it's going to attract too much attention.
Yep.
And how often do they get groups of 6?
It's true.
Harry's dream finally comes true, and reality is slightly more exciting than the dream version. Then comes the most devastating part of the chapter. Sirius's knife melts. This has always bothered me because locks seem so inconsistent in the magical world. Some things can be unlocked with Alohomora, some things can't. Some things can be opened by Sirius's knife, some things can't. Hermione's Colloportus charm seems to work at first, and then it literally does nothing other than slow the Death Eaters down by like 1 second. And the Unspeakables must have some way of opening the door that melted the knife, which means there's a way around that too. When you step back and look at it, having a 3-headed dog really seems like the most effective way to guard your stuff.
Yeah, I mean...
Hagrid knows where it's at.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, you play him a bit of music and he falls straight asleep.
That's true. It does have a weakness, so...
Yeah. Anywho, they see a bunch of cool magical stuff that could fill up an entire book, but gets very little time devoted to it. Then they move on to the Hall of Prophecy, which is like an extra boring library. Alex always finds a way to dumb it down and make it sound extra boring.
It's true.
Harry finds out Voldemort played him like a Stradivarius, and then things pretty much go to hell. Blah, 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 broken ankle, broken nose, Ron gets high, Ron gets attacked by Krang. Then they all wind up on the... in the amphitheater room.
Oh, I'm sorry. If nobody else caught that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle reference, you're missing out. But that was so good. I'm sorry. Continue.
Maybe I can find a picture. Finally, the Order appears to save the day. And I've always pictured them diving into the room action movie style, firing off spells and sliding across the floor. And then, well, Sirius disappears. This is probably a controversial opinion, but his death never really impacted me all that much, at least not right away. There's so much going on in the scene, and we as readers don't know what the deal with the veil is, but somehow everyone else knows it's like a portal to the underworld. At least that's my interpretation right away. We're just left with Harry freaking out, Lupin holding him back, and Bellatrix being triumphant for like the 3rd time in this chapter. But that's the point J.K. Rowling is going for. Death is confusing and mysterious, and they're fighting a battle, and some things get overlooked. But Sirius is an important character, and his death should be a big deal, but is kind of left hanging there. And to cap it all off, the whole reason they were there in the first place. The weapon. Don't even get me started on why they call it that. Voldemort has been after... the weapon Voldemort has been after for so long gets destroyed. Sure, now he can't know what the prophecy said, but neither can Harry, which is unfortunate. Which is this book in a nutshell.
Yeah.
There you go.
Alex, thank you for that last minute laugh. I definitely needed that.
Always welcome.
Yeah. Thank you to everybody that wrote in this week. Whether it be email, whether it be tweets, whether it be on Instagram, whatever the case is. Thank you. It has definitely helped. It still sucks. I still think it all sucks. Still not happy I had to do this show. But we made it, so there's that.
We did.
And next week, we'll be reading the final 3 chapters of Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Even if it takes me all night, Matt. We might have a 5-hour podcast because of it, but you know what? We'll be done.
We'll find out, yeah.
One last thing. We're going to have another giveaway next week, as we always do. Matt, what could somebody win next week?
This week, I found something I hope will make you smile. I know people have generally been a fan of the Funko figures we've given away.
Mm-hmm.
What I don't know if many people are aware of there are even, dare I say, cuter versions of Funko figures.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And these come in the form of what they call mystery minis,
Mm-hmm.
which unfortunately, if you just want one of them, you're not guaranteed because it's a mystery, right?
Yeah, it's a blind box.
Department of Mysteries, perfect.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that one.
Look at the connections.
Yeah. In any case, I will be guaranteeing which one you get this week.
Ooh.
Because I found one that, for other reasons, obviously I thought fit these chapters perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
It is in fact a Thestral,
Nice.
and is probably, like I said, I mean, we've had a few people talk about how they're creepy or weird or whatever, but I think you'll agree this is the cutest Thestral you've ever seen. So
Cool.
I hope you will enjoy it as well.
Awesome.
Somebody
will. I guarantee it. How can they win this thing, you ask? Well,
I do ask.
You could write in an email, talesfromgodrichollow@gmail.com.
Usually a good start.
And I want you to write about your favorite Sirius Black moment in the series. You've had 3 books with him. He's had some moments. He's had some interactions. What's your favorite? What made you like Sirius Black? He doesn't have to be your favorite character, but everybody has to like him in some way, shape, or form. So, let's do that.
Sounds good.
I know Melby's going to be all over this one. She's had this document running for years now, I bet.
Yes.
So, send those in, and we'll pick a random winner next week as we finish up this book. Matt, thank you for getting me through this.
Thank you for showing up.
Yeah, it was questionable earlier in the day, but here I am. Hope everybody likes this episode. Yeah, we finish the book next week, so there's that. You can find me on... Oh, you know what? One thing.
What's that?
Let's finish the show here, Matt, real quick. The inscription.
Okay.
We said we'd go back to it. I wrote it down. I'd think about it all show. Here's what I got.
What do you got?
It's just random letters.
Okay.
Which makes me think that it's an abbreviation.
Okay.
The first 3 letters, when you have 3 letters together, usually a name.
Sure.
But the second one, with 5 letters, the APWBD,
Yep.
that's not a name. I don't know what that is. So maybe it's a place? But that seems awfully long for a place as well. So I'm super confused by that. But if the first one's a name, I don't know. What the first name is? No clue. I can't think of any. I mean, Sirius is the only name I can think of that starts with an S. So I'm drawing a blank completely on it. That's as far as I've gotten with it. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Let's start.
Sorry, guys. I did my best.
You're distracted. I understand.
Was. Yeah. You can find me on Twitter personally at the noise with a Y. You can follow the show on Twitter at Tales from GH. Follow us on Instagram, Tales from Godric's Hollow. You can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Tales from Godric's Hollow. You can check out the website where we have the show notes every week, and we have the shop, talesfromgodricshollow.com. And if you would like to support us, like so many of you amazing, amazing people have already, you could do so over at Patreon, patreon.com/Tales from Godric's Hollow. Matt, where can the people find you at?
You can find me personally on Twitter at As a Matter of Matt. Otherwise, emails. Lots and lots of emails for giveaways, to read on the show, to read off the show, whatever you feel like. talesfromgodrichollow@gmail.com.
Perfect. One final reminder. Last week, despite what we have said before, read all 3 chapters. Finish the book, folks.
I will change it on the calendar.
Okay, perfect. We'll tweet it out. We'll put it on the Facebook page. Everything. Everybody should know. Finish it up. Have fun. Just power through it. We're doing this because of Brent, because of Val, because you guys wanted it. We're doing it. Thank you for listening tonight. Until next time, Muggle out.
Mischief managed.